Ms. McDermott? Here. Mr. Terry?
Here.
Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. Ms. Stevenson? Here. Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
All present?
Thank you. Mr. Skeen, would you announce the executive session, please?
Yes, immediately preceding this meeting, we had an executive session to discuss litigation matters.
Thank you. No ceremonial proclamations. Any additions or deletions from the voting session agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
I'd like to make a motion to delete on the second page of the agenda, under agenda items, county council. We have many nominations. I'd like to make a motion to delete number. There's 2 5s. There's 3, 4, 5, 5. The second 5, letter E, the Luzerne County Children and Youth Advisory Board. I'd like to delete that from the agenda.
All right, there's a motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Agenda item 5E, the second 5 is deleted. All right. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda is adopted. All right, we'll now have public comment on voting session agenda items only. Anybody in the room? We have no slips.
Mr. Griffith?
Mr. Griffith, you're non-agenda, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right, anybody else in the room? Anybody on the Zoom phone call? There's 2. Okay. All right, we have Claudia Glennon.
Yes, my name is Claudia Glennon. I'm from Salem Township. And I'd like to address the meeting minutes from last week's council reorganization meeting. If they are written, the comments from Walter Griffin appear as if he was doing so as a citizen, when in fact, from the meeting and the video recording of the meeting, he clearly was speaking in his official capacity as the county controller. Minutes are an official record of the proceedings and must adequately reflect the proceedings. So before they can be accepted, I propose that these be changed. And furthermore, these unfounded and spurious attacks on Ms. Stevenson must stop. The question of eligibility has been posed and answered. There is a time to contest petitions and eligibility, and that was almost a year ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Hoffman-Mirolovich.
Hello, Alicia Hoffman-Mirolovich.
Dropped.
Oh,
Can't hear you.
Are you on mute?
Alicia, are you muted? Oh, hold on a second. Okay, hold on. All right, I think you're back.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
What town are you from?
Fairview Township.
Thank you.
I would like to speak to members of the council, particularly Chairman Lombardo and Vice Chair Thornton. I'm speaking on agenda items related to the appointments to boards and authorities. While it's critical to vote on appointments to each of these boards and authorities, I'm compelled to express my dismay and utter disbelief at your decision to delay the critical appointments to our Board of Elections. This isn't just a minor oversight, it's a glaring example of negligence that threatens the fabric of our democratic system. How can you justify such a delay? In a year marked by a monumental presidential primary and a significant ballot referendum, your failure to act swiftly and responsibly is not only disappointing, but deeply troubling. It's as if you're willingly ignoring the principles of our democracy and Luzerne County's storied history as it pertains to horrific elections. The vacancies on the election board aren't just open seats. They are guardians of electoral integrity. Your reluctance to fill these positions speaks volumes about your commitment or lack thereof to ensure a fair elections process. It's sad. It's a sad day when those entrusted with upholding the democratic process seem more interested in political games than in the welfare of the electorate. Let us not forget the critical nature of these roles as outlined in our charter. The Board of Elections, comprised of dedicated volunteers, serves a pivotal function in working alongside the Bureau. They are not merely administrative figures. They represent the public's eye and ears and ensure transparency and integrity in our elections. Your actions, or rather inactions, send a message of indifference and incompetence to the citizens of Luzerne County. Chairman Lombardo, you are quoted in the Times Leader saying that these appointments should be delayed because only one single applicant has applied for each open seat. Aren't there other appointments being voted on tonight with only one applicant? Why is the Board of Elections, which has a very tight external timeline leading up to an early presidential primary, being held up? You were quoted in that these appointments should be delayed only because a single applicant has applied for each open seat, which is not the case for all of these other seats. To me, this inaction seems less like an effort to recruit more applicants and more like a calculated, obvious effort to weaken the Board of Elections. We entrusted you with the responsibility to safeguard our elections, yet here we are, facing the prospect of yet another electoral fiasco due to your apparent disregard for the urgency of the situation. Let us be clear, the citizens of Luzerne County are watching. They are not pleased. The lack of leadership has already caused enough damage to public's trust. It's time for you to step up, rectify the situation, and show some semblance of respect for the offices you hold.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody else? Oh, yeah. We do have one agenda item related public comment. This is from Dave Chomp. Dear County Council, regarding the 4 Luzerne County Community College Board of Trustees seats that are up for appointment tonight, I am urging council members to appoint 4 new members from the list of 5 on the eligibility list. In my opinion, the 3 incumbent members who are seeking reappointment have shown more concern for doing what is politically expedient as opposed to doing what is in the best interest of the college when they voted to appoint a career politician as the new president. We should all remember that they appointed this person over 40 other well-qualified applicants, despite him having no apparent professional experience as a teacher, administrator, or other position at any level of education. Recommendation number 7 of the Home Rule Charter clearly sought to end the insidious practices of nepotism, cronyism, and favoritism, and requires appointments and hirings based on public notice, merit, fitness, and qualifications. Simply ask yourself how this appointment met the merit and qualification standards. As a professional educator with 25 years experience and knowledge of administrative qualifications, it's my personal belief that the 3 incumbents seeking reappointment did not fulfill the critical recommendation and therefore should not be given another opportunity to serve on this board. The council can send a strong message tonight by showing that these board appointments, they take these board appointments very seriously and will not appoint people who seem more interested in political cronyism and doing what is right in the best interest of the county residents. Council can give the Board of Trustees a fresh start and a positive direction by appointing 4 new board people and, of equal importance, setting a strong example for the rest of the authorities, boards, and commissions. Sincerely, Dave L. Chomp, West Pittston. All right, no other public comment. So that's I think that was sent after the time period when you can send it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an expiration of time. You can't send it past like 3 o'clock, I think. All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 12th, 2023 voting session? Motion, second, Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Abstain, was not here, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 19th, 2023 special meeting. Motion. Motion by Mr. Willovich, second by Mr. Liscavige. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain, Mr. Chairman, wasn't here.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of the January 2nd, 2024 reorganization meeting.
Second.
Ms. McDermott, Mr. Thornton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, minutes are approved. All right, number 1, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project, the Food Dignity Project. Second, McDermott, second by Mr. Liscavige.
On the question,
Go ahead.
is that maybe Manager Crocamo could just explain that the modifications won't run us into any kind of problems with.
No. For council's edification and the public, when there are substantive changes to the ARPA projects that were submitted to council, we bring those modifications to council for their approval. These two modifications are not asking for any increase in any kind of funds. It's just a shift on how the funds will be used. When that request is sent into the county manager's office, Michelle Sparich sends them to Booth. We have a discussion with Booth. Booth approves whether those modifications fit under the guidelines. And once that happens, we bring them modifications to council. And in this case, both of these programs, the Food Dignity Project and the Second Family Memory Care, they're just shifting the use of the monies to an ARPA approved function.
And there's no additional monies being awarded.
No additional monies.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I have a
Mr.
comment
Haas?
question. Yeah, and I appreciate having Booth there to give the county some good advice. However, I'm looking at, if my colleagues would take a look at page 23 of 57, it's the modification request spreadsheet. And so we're essentially, the original ask was for $50,000 for some type of technological software / computer equipment, and now that is going down to zero. So my first question, probably the most glaring one, is if this was unnecessary at the time, why is this line item going down to zero? Because the spirit of the original funds was to help out people during the pandemic. And some of these seem kind of arbitrary. And a secondary one I'm seeing here, they gave $127,800 for salaries of this. So I don't understand how that met the original requirements, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if we can get an answer for this. I don't think any representatives are here from either place.
Well, I can get you an answer from
Yeah.
Booth, but they do meet, those requirements didn't, those particular functions didn't meet the requirements for ARPA. There are a lot of administrative costs that can be paid through ARPA monies. And in this particular case, if you look at the detailed explanation, that would be on page 21 of 57. They asked that we would like to reallocate the funds within the budget line of technology, software, computer equipment that were to be used for the Food Rescue Europe platform to support food recovery operations, manage donations, mobilize volunteer drives, coordinate real-time rescue, and report on impact. It's a total of $50,000. As these projects proceed, as in any project, there are times when you realize that maybe you allocated more money to one line item as opposed to another. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So the reallocation of the money to support the recovery operations and manage donations and mobilize volunteer drives and coordinate real-time rescue and report on impact are ARPA approved functions.
Yeah, the ARPA approved, but if I read the rest of the narrative, and it's a valuable project. I mean, it's not a bad project, but that's not the point here. It looks like they partner with Kings, and that's wonderful. It's a senior project. However, again, it takes away the line item from the original goal of that, and it seems like it's more of a work study, for college kids.
Well,
And
they're shifting the work to,
Yeah.
and they're partnering with Kings, which actually I think should be applauded, that this group and to the students at Kings that are working with this group. So they were allocated X number of funds by the county for their ARPA money, and they're just shifting the use of that money to an ARPA approved function.
I understand, and again, it's not a poor project. And for what it's worth, I'll have the same question for the next allocation as well, but I'm
Well,
just
do you
saying.
wanna go over
it's-
that now
If-
or wait?
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Crocombe, if I could just add something, I apologize, but it does also say that they're partnering with Kings basically to develop some form of the same program that they were developing with the $50,000. And it appears that they're not doing it at any cost to themselves. And then that 50,000 will go to purchasing more agricultural goods to continue serving those in Luzerne County. So it's going directly towards the mission that 50,000 is not just going, it's not going to the technology aspect. It's going directly towards the mission of feeding people, which, as we know, in this county, there are quite a few people who are underprivileged and could use this extra money.
I mean, just for the public record, again, I don't think it's necessarily a poor project. I think it's outside the scope.
Any other questions? Mr. Liscavige, do you have one?
No, I just wanted to say that the
Oh.
guidelines are set by Booth. That's why we hired them. It wasn't for council to determine what the guidelines, and that's why we hired them, and that's why for us to pick it apart now is kind of ridiculous. Only because that's why we hired them.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. Hawes?
No.
Ms. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Number 2, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project Second Family Memory Care LLC.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Wilovich, second by Ms. Stevenson. Go ahead, Mr. Haas.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, but again, it's the same school of thinking here. That now we're moving, I understand the need for remodeling, however, they're gonna decrease salaries by $15,000 and other equipment that was needed. Again, it just seems like it detracts from original scope. The scope of the COVID relief, or the parameters were not to do necessarily improvement on structures. It was to meet specific needs by the COVID. I understand in the narrative, I read it all, but I just think it's off the scope, just for the public record.
And just for the record, on page 30, under item number 5, that the budget modification has no impact on the project scope and performance metrics.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Ms. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Nope.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Number 3, motion to approve the 2024 Luzerne County Council meeting schedule.
So moved.
Sabatino, second by Ms. Smith. Yeah. Is that can just be a all in favor, right? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. All right, number 4, council nominations and appointments. First, we have the Luzerne Conservation District Board of Directors. We need a motion to open nominations.
Motion open.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are open. I'll nominate Mr. Wilovich.
I'll second it.
Any other nominations? There-
Motion to close nomination.
All right. Motion to close, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are closed. There's only one person on the list, Mr. Wilovich, so we can just do the resolution for him
We
now.
still need a first and second.
Okay, all right. Motion to nominate Mr. Wilovich.
So moved. Second.
All right, Mr. Liscavige, Mr. Thornton, all in favor?
No.
Oh, I apologize. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasinski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous. I apologize till I get used to everyone's voices.
Do the resolution now.
That was the resolution.
Okay, all right. That was what I said.
That was the vote to appoint him
Conservation.
through resolution to the
Yes.
Conservation District, correct?
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Next, Luzerne and Wyoming Counties Mental Health and Developmental Services Program Advisory Board. Do we have a motion to open nominations?
Motion to open nominations.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. McDermott, second by Ms. Krishnowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Smith.
nomination for Ms. Smith. Is there
I'll
a
second it.
Second by Ms. Krishnowski. Any other nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
All right, motion and a second to close. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are closed. All right, now the resolution to nominate Ms. Smith.
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Wilovich, second by Mr. Sabatino. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, thank you. All right, next we have Greater Hazleton Can Do Board of Directors.
Motion to close nominations.
All right, motion,
I second it.
second by Mr. Thornton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Sabatino.
I'll second it. Oh, everybody said.
Okay. All right. Motion.
Motion to close.
Who was the second?
Miss Smith.
Pick one.
Yeah. You got this? All right.
Mr. Perry and Ms. Smith.
Yeah, all right.
First and
Motion,
second?
motion to close. And second by Mr.
Got it.
Wilovich. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution.
Motion.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Wilovich, second by Ms. McDermott. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence. Sorry.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, nominations and appointments to authorities. First, we have the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority. We have one term ending 12/31/2028.
Motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I nominate William Hardwick.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Motion to close nominations.
Motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Haas. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. Now the resolution.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Wilovich, Mr. Sabatino, roll call.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, next we have the Luzerne County Housing Authority, one term ending 12/31/2028.
Motion to open nominations.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
Nominate Ms. Acosta. Second.
Okay, Mr. Wilovich, Mr. Sabatino. Any
I'd
other
like-
nominations?
I'd like to nominate Catherine Trinavich.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Thornton. Okay, is there any other nominations or motion to close?
Motion to close.
Motion?
Second.
All right, second by Ms. McDermott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. Okay, everybody is going to go around and state their preference when called. So roll call, please. Ms. Lawrence?
Ms. Stevenson, Mr. Thornton,
Kathleen Chernavich.
Mr. Wilovich,
Ms. Acosta.
Mr. Haas,
Ms. Acosta.
Ms. Krishnowski,
Ms. Acosta.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Denise Acosta.
Ms. McDermott,
Ms. Trinavich.
Mr. Perry,
Denise DeCosta.
Mr. Sabatino,
Ms. Acosta.
Ms. Smith,
Ms. Acosta.
Mr. Lombardo.
Ms. Acosta?
We have 9 for Acosta, 2 for Trinavich, so it would be Ms. Acosta.
All right, we'll now have the resolution for Ms. Acosta.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Wilovich, Mr. Sabatino. Roll call?
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry, Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes. All right, now we have the Luzerne County Redevelopment Authority, one term ending 12/31/2028.
Motion to open nomination.
I'll second it.
Mr. Thornton, Ms. Krishnowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Phillips.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We will have the resolution for Mr. Phillips.
Motion.
Ms. McDermott,
Second.
second, Ms. Krasinowski. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. Lovett,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
I'm not going too fast for you, am
No.
I? Okay, just making sure. All right, now we'll have nominations and appointments to boards and commissions. We have the Luzerne County Board of Tax Assessment Appeals with one term ending 12/31/2027.
Wait, this one.
Did I? Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. Luzerne County Transportation Authority.
Motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations are open. There's two terms.
To nominate Mr. Joseph Padavin.
Second.
I'd like to nominate Mr. John Young.
Second.
Motion to close nomination.
Second.
All right.
Hold on.
All right.
You closed and.
He
was-
motioned and Leanne was
I
second.
got it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right.
I have to do a resolution for each.
Okay, there's only two and there's two spots, so we'll do a resolution for each. First, we'll do the one for Mr. Padavan.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Wilovich, Ms. Krasinowski, roll call.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes,
Unanimous.
thank you. Now we'll have the resolution for Mr. Young.
Motion.
All right, Ms. Krasinowski, Mr. Sabatino. Roll call.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Now we'll go into appointments to the boards and commissions. Luzerne County Board of Tax Assessment Appeals, there's one term ending 12/31/2027.
Motion to open nominations.
All right, Mr. Thornton, Ms. Stevenson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are
I'd like
open.
to nominate Jenny Centrella.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. One candidate, so we'll have the resolution for Jenny Centrella.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, Children and Youth was removed. Next, we'll have the Luzerne County Community College Board of Trustees. We have four terms ending 12/31/2029.
Wait,
Motion to.
Yeah, we removed Children and Youth.
I know, do we have farmland in here yet before that?
No, that's below.
No, farmland is under it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, sorry about that. I
All
didn't
right.
have that.
Nope, that's okay.
Motion to open nominations.
Ms. McDermott,
Second.
second, Mr. Sabatino, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. William Lewis.
Second.
All right.
I'd like to nominate Jimmy Dennis.
Okay, okay. Jimmy Dennis. Is there a second for Jimmy
Second.
Dennis? All right,
Did you get Lewis?
I did, yes.
Lewis and Dennis.
All right, go ahead. I apologize.
I'd like to nominate Kathy Bell.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Kathy O'Donnell by Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. McDermott.
I'd like to nominate Bob Schnee.
Second.
All right,
I'd like to nominate Megan.
Hold on.
okay, nope. Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Megan.
Second.
Okay. Got that? Any other nominations?
I nominate Joseph Cotter.
Is there a second? All right,
Because no second.
yep, okay. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Bernie Graham.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
All right, motion dies, lack of a second.
Nominate Mr. Linsky.
All right, motion dies for lack of a second. Is there a motion to close
Motion to
nominations?
close.
All right. All right, Mr. Liscavige, Ms. Stevenson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right, all right, we'll do something similar to the last time. However, everybody state your preference. However, if somebody else names one of your preferences, it would just be easier if you just would name them and vote for them at that time and then vote for the next person in the next round. However, you can
So to
essentially.
clarify,
Yeah.
the first round, if there's 3 or 4 names thrown out, the person that receives the least votes isn't really thrown out.
They're not thrown out.
They're
We'll
brought
just,
up in the second
Yeah.
position because there's 4 board seats.
Mhm.
Okay.
all right.
So we have 5, right? We have Lewis, Dennis, O'Donnell, Schnee, and
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay,
Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
okay. Ms. McDermott,
Catherine O'Donnell,
Mr. Perry,
Robert Schnee.
Mr. Sabatino,
O'Donnell.
Ms. Smith,
O'Donnell,
Ms. Stevenson,
O'Donnell,
Mr. Thornton,
Bob Schnee.
Mr. Wilovich,
Ms. O'Donnell.
Mr. Haas,
Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Kennedy,
Mr. Liscavige,
Jim Dennis.
Mr. Lombardo.
Ms. O'Donnell.
She actually has 6, so she would be, we don't have to do another round.
Okay.
She obtained the 6.
Okay, so
She passes.
she passes. So-
Lewis is 1, Kennedy was 1, and Schnee was 2,
And Dennis.
and Dennis was 1.
Okay. So we'll continue with the
One seat-
voting
one
until
seat's
all of the
filled
seats are
and
filled.
So we have 3 seats open now.
Yeah, now
We
we have,
already filled that one because she did obtain 6.
yes, and we will
Majority. Do the resolution.
do the resolution after,
At the end.
at the end, yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go through again. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. Perry,
Robert Schnee.
Mr. Sabatino,
Schnee.
Ms. Smith,
Snee,
Ms. Stevenson,
Kennedy,
Mr. Thornton,
Jim Dennis.
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Schnee.
Mr. Haas,
Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Kennedy,
Mr. Liscavige,
Schnee.
Ms. McDermott,
Schnee,
and Mr. Lombardo.
Mr. Schnee.
Mr. Schnee has 7,
So he passes as well.
2 for Kennedy, 1 for Dennis, 1 for Lewis.
All right,
So yes, he's in.
He's in 7.
okay. All right,
2
roll,
seats.
roll call for the next round, Ms. Lawrence?
Hold on.
Go ahead, take your time.
Okay, we're up to Mr. Sabatino,
Kennedy.
Ms. Smith,
Kennedy,
Ms. Stevenson,
Kennedy,
Mr. Thornton,
Let's see where I'm at here. James Dennis.
Mr. Wilovich,
Kennedy.
Mr. Haas,
Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Kennedy,
Mr. Liscavige,
James Dennis.
Ms. McDermott,
William Lewis,
Mr. Perry,
Peyton Kennedy.
and Mr. Lombardo.
Dr. Lewis.
Make it Kennedy.
6 for Kennedy, 3 for Lewis, 2 for Dennis. So Kennedy,
One seat left, right?
Mhm.
okay,
All right, last one, roll call.
Ms. Smith,
pass round,
Ms. Stevenson,
pass,
They said
you
pass.
passed. Mr. Thornton,
We cannot hear out here. I'm sorry. We cannot hear.
Can we get the last two
This is a
names?
public meeting.
The last two names are Mr. Lewis and Mr. Dennis.
There. You want to start over?
we could start over.
We can start over if you'd like. Okay,
Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Stevenson? Mr. Thornton,
Mr. Dennis.
Mr. Wilovich,
Dr. Lewis.
Mr. Haas,
Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Dr. Lewis.
Mr. Liscavige,
Mr. Dennis.
Ms. McDermott,
Dr. Lewis.
Mr. Perry,
Jimmy Dennis.
Mr. Sabatino,
Dr. Lewis.
and Mr. Lombardo.
Dr. Lewis.
We have 8 for Lewis and 3 for Dennis. It's Lewis.
All right, now we'll move into the resolutions. You want to just start from how we nominated? Is that okay? All right, we'll start with Ms. O'Donnell.
So move.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. Stevenson? Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10-1 passes.
All right, next we'll move to
Mr. Schnee?
Mr. Schnee.
Motion.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo? Excuse me, Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10-1.
Now we'll move to Ms. Kennedy.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Sabatino and Wilovich. Roll call.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
No.
It's 9-2, that passes.
We'll move on to the final one, Dr. Lewis.
Motion.
There's a motion,
Second.
motion in a second. All right, roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. Relatively painless. All right, next we'll move on to the Farmland Preservation Board, one term ending 12/31/2026.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
Oh, hold on one second. Wait for Ms. Lawrence to catch up.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
All right.
Farmland.
All right, motion by Ms. McDermott, second by Mr. Thornton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
Nominate Ms. Snee.
Second.
First and a second.
Motion to close nomination.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution for Ms. Snee.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thornton, second by Ms. McDermott. Roll call.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. Next, we'll have the Luzerne County Zoning Hearing Board.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I nominate William Harris.
Second.
Who was that, Mr. Sabatino?
Yeah, Mr. Sabatino was the second. Or a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
Mr. Thornton, Mr. Wilovich, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution for Mr. Harris.
Motion.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas
Yes.
and Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. Luzerne and Wyoming County Area Agency on Aging.
Is it number 4?
Yeah, this one has four openings and 4 individuals.
And you can nominate all 4 at once, rather than
Because there's
separate.
4 positions and there's 4 people.
So someone can say, I nominate all 4 candidates.
So, okay. So
Motion to open nominations.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Willovich, second by Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
And I move that we nominate 4 people. Ms. Phyllis Mundy, Mr. Henry Benoni, Mr. William Runner, Mr. David Yonke.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
I'll make motion.
Ms. Krasinowski, Ms. McDermott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right, and then we have to do them individually still. Okay, all right. First, we'll have the resolution for Ms. Mundy.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Willoughby.
Mr. Willovich was the first.
Ms. Stevenson.
Ms. Stevenson was the second. Okay,
Okay.
roll call.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yeah.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, resolution for Mr. Panoni.
Motion.
Second.
All right, Leanne and Ms. Krasinowski. Roll call.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Resolution for Mr. Runner.
Make a motion.
Ms. Krasinowski, second by Mr. Haas. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Resolution for Mr. Yonkai.
Motion.
Second.
Lovich, Sabatino. Roll call.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, last one. Luzerne and Wyoming County Mental Health and Developmental Services Program Advisory Board with one term ending 12/31/2026.
Motion to open nomination.
I'd like to,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open. Go ahead.
I'd like
Leanne.
to nominate Linda Luke.
Second.
Motion to close.
Second.
Sabatino, Lovich to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution for Linda Luke.
Motion.
Mr. Wilovich,
Second.
second by Ms. Smith.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasinowski?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, thank you. That it? I think it is. All right, we'll now have public comment. Anybody in the audience? We have Mr. Griffith.
My comment's brief. The only issue that we have in the audience, and I spoke about it last week, is we cannot hear when you speak, when you folks are speaking. It's very, very important that you keep in mind that this is a public meeting. This isn't a meeting of just council. We have a right to hear what you're saying and what you're voting on. And I know it's difficult. Sometimes we get into these sidebar conversations, but the public has a right to hear that. So please, until we get a sound system in this room for the council members, we really need to be aware that we need to speak up so people in the audience can hear what you're saying and how you're voting. It's very important. So I would appreciate that. On your work session agenda, again, the issue for the Gateway Center is coming up again. The issue is the UDAG money. You need to make sure that that UDAG money is able to be spent by the county. I don't believe it is, from all the research that we've done in our office, as well as any research anybody has done as far as if that money is eligible to be spent on private development. If we're going to take a risk on $6 million for this county, let's risk it on the county stuff. Let's fix the roads, let's fix the bridges, let's fix the sound system in this room. Let's put a generator in Penn Place. There's a whole host of things that we're deficient on in this county that we could use $6 million of taxpayers' money on. If we don't want to give it to the taxpayers, then at least let's use it for something that we can use and not private developers. If we had the money and you wanted to give regular funds that were available, fine. But this is UDAG money that's clearly earmarked by the Inspector General's office that we should not be spending. Keep that in mind when you consider the projects that are on your agenda for your work session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Anybody else in the audience? All right, I do have one email before we get to the Zoom. This is from Cherie Clark from Wilkes-Barre. Dear Luzerne County Council, on behalf of freedom fighters, I would like to submit the following statement in response to the baseless accusations made during the swearing in of County Councilwoman Brittany Stevenson. As an organization that fights for voting rights, equal access for all to participate in our democratic process, and equal representation at all levels of government, it is sad that we must issue such a statement. This necessity highlights the ongoing battle against systemic racism and bias, underscoring the importance of safeguarding fair and impartial elections to ensure the people's voice is heard and respected. An event should have been celebratory for our elected council members who were sworn in on January 2nd, 2024, was desecrated with baseless accusations that challenged the validity of the only African-American elected to the council. The timing of these accusations is particularly distressing, given that the democratic process outlines specific periods for such concerns to be appropriately raised. This incident reeks of bias rather than genuine concern, seemingly aiming to undermine Councilwoman Stevenson based on her race and gender. We refuse to stand idle in the face of this blatant assault on both Councilwoman Stevenson and the principles of democracy. Accountability must be demanded for these reprehensible actions. Freedom Fighters stands to unite with the citizens of Luzerne County who have clearly expressed their choice of representatives. Councilwoman Brittany Stevenson embodies the aspirations and interests of Luzerne County's residents, and we look forward to witnessing her continued leadership.
Mr. Chair, can I comment on that, please?
Yes.
Just briefly, just so there's no confusion with the public or the media in the rooms. Those comments are directed at members of the public that were here last week that spoke. This person asked for accountability. I think the public could say, even though I don't agree with them, say what they want. But for the record, I want to make sure everybody knows there was no one on council here last week that made such comments against Ms. Stevenson. So just so that's clear, those statements were, I don't know if they're intended for council, but no one that I could recall made any kind of derogatory statements towards Ms. Stevenson here at the public meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thornton. We have on the Zoom, we have one person that says concerned citizen. Please state your name and your municipality. You can unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
You want to go to the next?
Yeah,
one?
let's go to the next one until we can get that figured out. We have Katerina. All right, go ahead, Katerina.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, state your full name and municipality, please.
Sure. My name is Katerina Goretta. I'm from Kingston Borough. I'm speaking on the baseless accusations regarding Councilwoman Stevenson's residency. I attended a high school program with Brittany Stevenson from 2012 to 2015 in Wilkes-Barre. She is a longstanding resident of our community. These are bogus claims that are only being brought up and investigated because she's a woman of color. These are racist, misogynistic, and cowardly comments. And you, as council members, have really big opportunity here to refuse the racist claims, and I ask that you do. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Lisa Napersky.
Hello?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thanks. My name is Lisa Napersky. I'm from Fairview Township, and I wanted to first, I keep trying to unmute myself. I'm not sure if it's good now.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. Anyway, my comment is, I wanted to welcome and congratulate the new council members. Really excited for the, hoping for a great year. And I wanted to just comment that I'm very disappointed that the decision to fill our election board has been delayed. It's critical election year, and again, it's very disconcerting that that decision was made, and I hope that you would please fill that as soon as possible and without further delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's try Katerina again.
Oh, was,
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I apologize. Mr. Urban, Steve Urban.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, Steve Urban from Kingston Borough. Just wanted to speak regarding Ms. Stevenson's petitions. As far as, the allegations on the petitions aren't a racist issue. They're an issue of more of legality and potentially criminal act with whoever may have signed various signatures in the same hands. There are multiple signatures on the petitions that look like they were signed by the same individuals, maybe multiple individuals. And there's an attestation on the back as a circulator, which could be deemed as an unsworn falsification, as the person circulating the petitions. When you hand them in front of somebody, you're attesting that they are the true and correct person that's signing their own signature. So nothing about those petitions are racist. I can say, for instance, I'm the first Asian American that sat on the council as a minority. I've been voted, down in many times in a minority capacity. But regarding the petitions for Ms. Stevenson, if you look at them, you don't have to be a handwriting expert to know that some of the signatures were signed by the same people. There are cases where there's 6 in one family that were signed by the same individual. There's probably about 14 or 15 signed from one of the same families that look the same. There's another instance of 2 or 3 that look the same. So many of the signatures look like they were signed by somebody. Maybe they were coerced, into doing it. It was wrong. There was a criminal act out in the 12th Congressional District recently, where a Democratic operative looking to get a congressional candidate in public office was indicted by the Attorney General of Pennsylvania because they had forged a federal judge's signature on a petition, and a complete investigation showed that there was identity theft, forgery, petition fraud, unsworn falsification, numerous charges that were brought forward by the AG. Whether it's done to a judge or any individual out in the public, it's potentially a crime with this day and age, with identity theft going on and forgery. It's a serious offense or a serious allegation that needs to be addressed by law enforcement. And I plan to continue to pursue this until there is justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urban. So, yeah, people keep popping up in and out. I apologize. Mark Schaefer.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay. I was hoping I didn't end up like everyone else and struggling.
You're good.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I appreciate.
Mark, what town do you live in?
Yeah, Wilkes-Barre. I wanted to say that I do appreciate, I believe it was Mr. Thornton who clarified that no one on council is echoing the spurious claims against Ms. Stevenson. I really appreciate that our council is getting together on this and recognizing that it's kind of the charade that it is. I mean, I think it's worth noting that Mr. Urban is alone this time in bringing up the issue. And just, I'd like to repeat that if he's talking about petitions, and there is a period for petition signing. And as Claudia said, that was almost a year ago. And it's pretty clear that Mr. Urban didn't do it back then because he didn't take Ms. Stevenson seriously. He thought she wouldn't win, so he thought it wasn't worth bothering. And now that now that she beat him, he has sour grapes and wants to try and make a scandal out of this. If he was concerned about this as a criminal matter, then he would be going to legal authorities, not county council. The fact that he's bringing this to county council makes it pretty clear that he's just trying to make a political scandal out of this. He's trying to justify his loss. He's not serious about what he's bringing up. If he was, he'd be going to the district attorney or some other legal authority. Yeah, again, I appreciate that the council's unified on this. I was concerned that members of council wouldn't, but you guys have been very unified. And I think, as others have said, we should be celebrating that we have new members of our council and that we have council that looks different than it normally does. And we've broken new glass that we didn't think we would break. So again, appreciate the council. And I hope everyone recognizes this is sort of the political sham that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Dave M.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dave. Go ahead. State your name, your full name and municipality, please.
Sure. My name is Dave Masakura from Wilkes-Barre City, and I just want to thank Walter Griffith and Steve Urban Jr. Last week for being wonderful, proud paragons of virtue and patriotism, for attacking Luzerne County's first woman of color on the board. And I would like to very much point out their accomplishments. Walter Griffith illegally recorded 3 conversations without the consent just days before the May primaries way back in the day. He bravely pleaded down the original charges, which carried a possible prison sentence as part of the plea deal. He resigned as county controller, and Griffith pleaded to the lesser charge of obstructing administration of law and was sentenced to 3 years probation. The very brave Stephen Urban decided to defend his house and property against a terrifying, menacing 12-year-old with a baseball bat. And Kingston Police Detective Stephen Gibson testified that Urban asked a neighbor to delete surveillance footage of the incident. Gibson said the video footage contradicted what Urban claimed during an initial interview. Gibson said Urban told him he never left his porch and never raised the bat, but the footage showed Urban walked off his porch holding a baseball bat over his head while chasing after 6 children. Those paragons of virtue must surely be believed when they make their accusations and claims. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rabo, I know you had your hand up before. I don't know if you can get unmuted now. No? I don't see it. No? Okay. All right. Anybody else for public comment? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second with Mr. Thornton. All right, meeting is adjourned. We'll come back at 7:10 for the work session.
Recording stop.
Turn your mics off, council, please.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right. Everybody else has their mics on? All right. It's 7:12. Now I will call the work session to order. We already had the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. Roll call, please, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Hawes.
Here.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Here.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. McDermott. Here. Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Sabatino.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Stevenson. Here. Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Wilovich.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
All present.
All right, thank you. Any additions or deletions from the work session agenda? We will have to delete number 5, so somebody please make that
Make a
motion.
motion to delete number 5.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, number 5, Alerta is deleted. For explanation, the individuals who are coming to present it can't make it tonight. They'll be at a future meeting, probably in February. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
All right, motion by Ms. McDermott, second, Mr. Wilovich, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is adopted. All right. First, we have division reports.
Council, you've been given the monthly division reports. I'm just going to publicly thank our EMA, our 911, our road crew, and our building crew over the last few days. They did yeoman's work. They work furiously to make sure our roads and that this building and all our buildings were clean, so the public could come into the buildings. 911, we got updates. They were inundated with phone calls, but they persevered. So if there's any questions about the report, I'm always open to questions, whether it's email, text message, phone call. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions. I know we have some presentations, so I'll just limit my comments to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the new members of council, the report is usually pretty extensive as it is tonight. So go through it at your leisure, and you can always ask questions to Ms. Krokema or to even the departments if they're present at any time.
And if there's any other information or format that this group wants, this is a format that we've been using historically, but I am certainly open to changing the format and providing a different type of information. You tell me, and we'll get that done.
And to just for the record, I want to personally thank Ms. Croquemont and the high levels of staff to be very available. It's a great transition coming from somebody who's been here before. So thanks, Jamil. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. We're here.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. All right, number 2, we have the Gateway Center Hotel Sterling presentation. Mr. Farouk.
Good evening, everybody. We're probably tired of looking at it.
Mr. Sabatino, do you want to give him the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. The new members of council, welcome, and I wish you every success over the coming year. I'm hoping our project could be one of those successes. First of all, the Sterling project has a history to it, which maybe some of the younger members may not be so familiar. But it goes back almost 40 years. The community has been trying to do something, either to save the existing structures that were on site, which was an 8-story building and a 15-story building. And that failed. Then the project ultimately was demolished, and we have a 2.1 acre site sitting in a very critical section of the city, waiting to be redeveloped. This project is as much a definition of a redevelopment project as you'll ever find. The buildings were torn down about a little over 10 years ago, and multiple attempts have been made by the city, the county, CityVest, other private investors to do something with that particular site and resurrect some type of a hotel hospitality type project on that site. Well, in 2018, the city decided they were going to put that out for bid and see who would be interested in coming in to develop that site. Well, they received two proposals, ours, which was H&N Investments, and another. At that time, they chose ours as being the stronger proposal, and we proceeded. In 2019, we established our project costs. We hired our architects, which is Hemler Kamad, and they'll say a few words tonight as well. We hired Extreme Hospitality to kind of like steer us through this whole this hotel business. And Eric is here tonight too to talk about the market. And we got through that process initially. We got cost estimates established, and it came in at $23 million. We went to the state for a RACP, requesting $10 million. We got two, so that caused us to really delay the project. We had to wait another year, which took us into 2020. We got another 500,000, I believe. And then again, another obstacle popped itself up, and that was the pandemic and COVID. So that tied us up for 2 years. So in the meantime, a project had gone from $23 million to $37 million. And anybody who's doing new construction knows that that's not unusual. That's kind of what's going on out there at the present time. So we really are in need of getting additional support and assistance to get this project completed. And I think that with the county, matter of fact, I know if we get this county support, and we're requesting $5 million for this project, we can be well on our way to possibly even breaking ground as early as next fall. So with that, why don't I have, for the benefit of our new members, or your new members, is to have Brian Doran from Hemler Kamad just come up and just give you a few words describing the project.
Thank you, Steve. I have a presentation here that we can refer to on the screen. You also all each have a booklet with the same presentation in it. So if we can go another couple of slides out. Oh, let's see here. This is the control. All right, yeah, so if you can go to the next slide. Keep going. Oh, sorry, try again. One more. There we go. So started just to give everyone just familiar with the site. We are located right at the corner of Market and River Street, a very prominent site, as we all know, from where the Sterling once was. Very strategically located between the business district as well as between bookending the two colleges between on the ends, Wilkes and Kings. Also strategically located to the courthouse here as well. So when we talk about those things, we talk about those who we think will utilize the hotel, who will be staying, and as well as events that occur. We can go to the next slide, please. The proposed site plan essentially in the lower left fills out the entire site of where the Sterling once existed. There are three primary program blocks, I'll call them. There's an event space, a hotel, and there's a retail component that's currently proposed. In terms of how we've structured the location, the building, and the forms, what we've done is we've located the event center out on the corner. We've flanked it back with the hotel, stretching back to the adjacent buildings and access point off of Market Street. And along there, we've bookended each side of it with retail. The hotel also sits back off of Market and creates an urban park, which we think is a very attractive feature, which would be a very welcoming gesture towards the city and the pedestrian experience. Parking, as you can see, there's a proposed parking garage with on-surface parking as well as elevated decks. I believe the numbers are 100 and I think we have 75 on the ground spaces. We have 150 spaces in the parking garage. We're looking at 112 hotel rooms. And the other components, the event space, or call it a ballroom, is about 5,500 square feet. The pre-function space for the ballroom is about 4,200 square feet and about 3,000 square feet of retail. We can go to the next slide, please. So here's one of our major challenges. Before we can get all this constructed, we have a site that is laden with some issues. When the Sterling was demolished, a lot of the debris, a lot of the material was collapsed into the ground, which is not an uncommon practice when demolishing buildings. So as you can see, the gray that's depicted is the footprint of our current proposed hotel and conference center event space. What is in yellow, what you see in blue, are all of the remnants left behind, buried below ground of the basement, as well as foundations and footings of the Sterling site, of the Sterling building, both the 8-story and the 15-story building that Steve had mentioned before. So one of the budgetary issues that we've been dealing with is essentially cleaning up the site to create a pad-ready location for a building to be constructed on. We can't just build over top of these existing conditions that are below grade. If we go to the next slide. So going back to what we are proposing to construct, this is the first floor plan, and just to walk you through some of the amenities here. The purple on the lower left corner is right at the corner of Market and River Street. That is pre-function space on the first floor. It's about 4,000 square feet. The peach color to the upper left as well as to the lower right are the retail spaces, again totaling about 3,000 square feet. And then the rest of it is basically hotel amenities, which on the first floor includes a large lobby, which is the light blue color, right in the middle, that is centralized right off of the urban plaza or urban park that we're proposing to develop along Market Street. The brownish areas are all back of house areas, but then we are also taking that lobby and creating an opportunity to have conferencing spaces adjacent to it that open out onto that urban garden as well. We can go to the next slide, please. This is the second floor of the proposed construction. Again, the purple space is the event space. That's approximately 5,500 square feet of constructed area. Seating for a wedding could be up to 300 seats in that space. This is also allowing for operable partitions that can break the space down into smaller rooms where they could have seminars or smaller events that the operators can host. The green that you can see, the repetitive layout, is all of the hotel spaces. Again, Steve can talk about this, or Eric can talk about this, but we are under the Hyatt brand for this project. So all of the hotel standards will meet their current standards as required by them. Go to the next slide, please. So we have the third, fourth, and fifth floor plans. Again, just the repetitive hotel layout with all the different rooms that are currently proposed. We can go to the next slide. These are the proposed renderings, proposed concept images of how we are developing the exterior. Basically, looking first from the River Street view, that is taken right from basically across where the bridge is located at the Market Street Bridge. There is a corner element to the design that is intended to make gestures and echo the Market Street Bridge, because the corner of that intersection is extremely prominent. So the design of the building is trying to speak to that. And then what we're doing is we are taking the other components of the design and trying to scale them appropriately. We're trying to use materials that are all compatible to what we think is a very strong context within the city of Wilkes-Barre. We are trying to develop a design that speaks to the city and draws inspiration from it as well. Some of the elements, as you can see, are some cornice lines to top off the top of the building, which align with some of the adjacent properties to hold the urban wall and to, again, reestablish the urban fabric, which in that case there in particular is extremely lacking in terms of how the site conditions are right now. The view along Market Street, where the park is located, is softened up by some streetscaping with tree lines, as well as some type of piers or masonry elements that transition pedestrian between there and the urban space as well, then into the hotel. And if we can go to the next slide. An aerial view to the left shows the overall complex, and then the courtyard, or the urban garden as I'm calling it. This is a space inside here where we're proposing trellises and arbors to basically create an outdoor experience for occupants of the hotel. Or maybe this is the cocktail hour location prior to a wedding for outdoors. We think that it has great possibilities for utilization along Market Street, with the views of the river being right across River Street. I can tell you that as a parent of a child who played travel hockey for 10 years, I would kill to stay in a hotel like this. I've stayed in many that are not as well situated within an urban context, because there's a lot to do in the area between restaurants and other amenities. This is basically prime for that type of clientele. Can we go to the next slide? George Albert is our civil engineer for the project. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but just basically a list of due diligence that we have achieved to date and permitting in terms of where we are at. There has been geotechnical and subsurface investigations, which is basically helping us guide us on how we're going to handle the remnants of the Sterling footings and foundations and basement. The site has already been surveyed. We've been working with property surveys. Utilities are all available on site. We are corresponding with utilities to basically determine sizing and capabilities for the hotel and event space. We have been going through zoning reviews, variances, as well as land development processes. Everything is all in place, ready to go. The only one of the last permits that we have to still achieve is the building permit, and we will do so as soon as we are wrapped with design and ready to go for that. I can go to the next slide. I think this is Eric is going to come and speak at this point. Is that, unless you have any questions, I can take any questions on it, on the design.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Rubino from Extreme Hospitality. I had the privilege of speaking in front of some of you a couple weeks ago, and great to be back with you tonight. My firm is handling the feasibility, investment, and hospitality consulting, and eventually the asset management of the Hyatt Place at the Gateway Center project that we're talking about this evening. We ran a feasibility study on the market, on the property and its underlying asset, as well as looked at the economic impact that a property like this could bring to the region and to Wilkes-Barre and Luzerne County. So I'm happy this evening to answer any questions that council may have regarding the economic impact or the feasibility, or any such related questions.
Well, that's the question. Yeah, based on your past experience with other hotel projects, how do you view this proposed project?
I think this is a very strong project. When we look at the market and we see where market occupancy is and where market rates are, it tells a very positive story of, the market can bear and support more hotels in the area. And with that, and having those hotels come into the area brings induced demand. It brings more room nights to the area, it brings more travelers to the area. It brings more people spending money to the area. Studies have shown that for about every dollar spent in a hotel, there's about $7 in regional economic activity. And that's prior to inflationary numbers being put on top of that study. So a project like this is poised to bring annual economic activity of upwards of $50 million annually to the region through new jobs, through spending with local contractors, spending with local vendors, et cetera. So it's really positive to see that, and to bring that to this area, I think would have a great impact on your constituents.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Welcome to Wilkes-Barre.
I'm from Scranton, so not too
Welcome to Wilkes-Barre. We'll allow it down. I don't think anybody here doubts the wonderful impact that a project like this would be. in downtown Wilkes-Barre. We've been waiting for this for almost 2 decades now. And so the devil's in the details. And I have 2 questions, kind of follow up on Mr. Thornton's. So in prior financing for other hotel projects you've involved in, we have a schematic here on this paperwork here, the overview. It's on page 2, council members, when you see that. So you just see the basic outlays here. How does this compare with past hotel? I have another question, but how does this summary compare with other hotel projects?
Yeah, so it depends on the market. In other markets, you don't need public support to get projects done, and some you do. I would liken this project to the Hilton in downtown Scranton that was built, I believe, 10 plus years ago. That project at that time had $13 million plus in public support and financing through a variety of local, state, and federal government, which helped that project get underway and accomplished. So that project, which is still standing today and still benefiting the Scranton area, wouldn't have been possible at that time without that. Another project and more recent in York, Pennsylvania, the Yorktown Hotel, which is a Hilton Tapestry product, that required, I believe it was upwards of $20+ million in public financing through state, local, and there was no federal in that project to my knowledge, to get that project done. So when we look at the secondary and tertiary markets, such as Wilkes-Barre, it's very common and often required for public financing to be a part of this, a public-private partnership to help get these deals across the finish line, to be a feasible deal for a lender to step in and bring the project the rest of the way.
That's actually my second question. Thank you for that. So your lender with the bank financing, what written verification do you have to show us so that we're not going to throw good money after bad? I think everybody is a little risk averse here from the situation there in downtown. I think everybody here wants to help. It's just, how can we minimize the risk to the county taxpayers, and maximize the success of this project?
Totally understandable. I think on that front, twofold. So I think it's important to note that prior to COVID hitting us in early 2020, we did have a lender signed up and this project was ready to go. When COVID had happened and prices had escalated, that's when the project had to regroup and come back and have these types of conversations with, public financing entities. So I think that's important to point out. At this stage, I think, and not to speak for Mr. Baruch and H&N Investments, that they're willing to work with council to structure the deal in a way that, the council money isn't first money in or second money in, but it's structured alongside the entire capital stack, so that they know when they're making this investment into the project, the whole project is a go, and that they're not funding something that could turn into a dead deal.
Right.
Is that fair to say, Mr. Baruch?
And that's what, as a city council member, that's what I would like to see, before I take it about. But
sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miscavige.
How many hotels within, say, 8 miles would meet this caliber?
Within 8 miles. At the higher place level, it competes in an upscale segment. I think the only hotel that would compete that currently exists with this product would be the Courtyard in the Hilton Garden Inn. The Hilton Garden Inn, I believe, is 10+ years old, located out at the arena. The Courtyard, I believe, is at least 5+ years old. And those products are, I think when we look at the market occupancy and we say, where it's at, it's very interesting that that demand is coming from the downtown, yet it's forced to drive 10 to 15 miles out to the arena. So a hotel that competes at this level in the downtown does not exist today, and therefore that demand is forced to drive in order to do business in the downtown and stay out at the arena.
I heard make that clear. Downtown's not 15 miles.
I apologize. 10 to 15 minutes is maybe more what I had intended to get across.
Any other questions? Ms. Smith?
You didn't answer Councilman Haas's first question. What written verification do you have from a lender?
So we have term sheets at this point, but in order to get formal commitment letters, we need to show our entire capital stack. So it'd be working together in tandem with our public financing partners to place those agreements, to put those agreements into place to finalize the funding. And
I'm finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, to finish that thought, from a lender's perspective, they're not going to put that commitment letter out until they know that the other pieces of the stack are there. So it's working together with almost a chicken and the egg type of atmosphere to finalize that. So both can have contingencies in their agreements of debt financing being locked in place, and they can have on their side contingencies of the public financing that's being discussed here this evening locked in place, so that both parties can have their protections in making sure a deal is going forward.
Can you tell us what your lender is, or can you show us any?
Mr. Brewer, at this time, I don't think they're prepared to put that out there. They're talking to several lending groups and there's interest from multiple.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for asking that, John. Well, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, is there some type of memorandum of understanding, or I know it's a different term for the financial world, but I think that's a big linchpin about this whole getting support from this council, that understanding.
Yeah, I think at this stage, from a lending perspective, a term sheet would be the greatest level of commitment that one would typically see in these situations.
A term sheet?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain that for the?
Yes, it would be a non-binding term sheet issued from a lender, and if a deal were to move forward, this is what the terms would look like, and this is what the structure would be, and what contingencies might be placed on the deal.
Thank you.
Ms. McDermott?
Okay, so the applications for PA sites, you submitted that, and for the new RACP. But originally, for the county money that you were looking for, it was 3 million, and you have 5 million in there. So before, you weren't even asking for that, and the project was going to be able to be completed. Now that 5 million is added into it. Originally, it was just the 3 million.
Yeah, we had an $11 million shortfall overall. The state has already committed $7 million to the project. Outside of the county, in terms of any other public sources, it's just the state. So what we're trying to do is have a realistic ask to the state, which we have in there at $4 million on top of the 7 that they've given us, and the 5 million, from the county. I would say at this point, if those dollars weren't available from the county, it puts this entire project in jeopardy, because we can't go back to the state and ask for another $11 million. So without county participation, we have a problem.
I apologize, for the 5 million or for 3 million or?
For the 5.
For 5.
Yeah, we want to make a realistic ask to the state, because they've been good. I mean, they've provided $7 million, but it's still below what the Hilton got, and another hotel in Reading and York. Those projects got more dollars than we're getting in the subsidy before COVID. So their dollars meant so much more to those projects than ours. Well, all we're trying to do is fill the gap in the increase in costs that occurred from COVID. Our economics for the project haven't changed since we're at $23 million. So if we don't fill that gap, that 11 million, or alter the project and make the to make the numbers work, we have a problem.
Any other questions?
I have no two.
Go ahead.
Mr.
Wilovich.
Hey, I have a question. Okay, so we have all these things about capital stacks. What are the stacks going for? What are all the expenses? I mean, if we give you 5 million, what's that 5 million going for? Instead of just going to a big pot of money, I want to know.
We also have Quandel is represented tonight, and they've done a full cost estimate for the project.
Why haven't we seen any?
Do you need to see all the details?
Absolutely. So I know where our money's going.
It's a $31 million construction cost, $6 million in FF&E and other costs associated with the startup, which are soft costs. A total of $37 million. That is, I'm sorry I don't have it with me. The last time I was here, I did. But
I asked you that question on almost every.
No, you didn't. Excuse me, sir. I have told council, and I've called all the council members. I've called all and asked, I said, is there anything more I can provide? If I didn't get a return phone call, I left a message saying, what do you need? And and I didn't get anything from you.
Okay, another question. How much would the county be making on taxes from that location in return?
Well, right now, we don't have the taxes computed, because the taxes on the site are already based on the old hotel that was there. They've never been adjusted for just a raw piece of land. So that'll have to be reassessed when we're done. But we don't have the number.
Any other council members? Ms. Smith?
Is it possible to get that number, or like an estimate thereof?
We can come up with our rough estimates based on current millage rates. There are experts that line that. As you guys know, there's a lot more that goes into, coming up with the assessed value of a piece of real estate than just looking at a couple numbers on the page of the private developer. But we can give some type of estimate. I think that I'd be comfortable in saying that it's clearly hundreds of thousands of dollars.
On top of the other taxes that will be generated from the property, which are about $1.8 million a year, and all the other taxes, local, state, and federal taxes. So there's a substantial payback for this project.
Mr. Haas.
Thanks, sir. And Mr. Rook, I'm looking here over again the prospectus, and how about partnership with the city of Wilkes-Barre? What is the city willing to do to, clearly it's going to benefit that entity as well, aside from county taxpayers and our committee. What have they offered?
Well, the city, first of all, we are, which I didn't mention, we are in a joint partnership with the Wilkes-Barre Industrial Development Authority. They are going to own the parking structure that will be built behind the building. The council is very generous with that and provided $2 million to the authority through ARPA for that project. And they're currently in the process of identifying the other $2 million to get that project up and going. The city had sold us the property at $600,000. And in conversations with the city, we've talked about taxes and other things, and that will help us as we go along with this project. They didn't have to write us a check for $1 million or $2 million. They don't have it. It's a small city.
Okay, so $2 million in the bank for the parking component, and then looking for another two tax.
Yeah, the project itself has been problematic from the standpoint that we have infrastructure issues, parking being one of them. We do not have adequate parking on that site, so we need to build a structure. That structure will, in fact, help the hotel. It'll help county's riverfront activities for parking. It'll help a number of the residents and retailers in that area that are currently lacking parking. The site, as Bob Dorn had said that we have foundations, we have floors, we have partitions, all sorts of different structures that have been buried underground that have to be removed. So when the county and the city jointly, in terms of the possession of that property, it went from county to city, and then the city demolished the building. We have a $2 million problem just cleaning up the site. So we're not stepping into this situation with all the infrastructure in place and ready to go. We have to take care of that. These are extra costs that are built into this project that I think can fully justify, in part, the subsidies that we're getting from the county. And we're truly grateful for it.
I have a question. Ms. Stevenson.
How much are we paying to reestablish the foundation for that property?
It'll be approximately about $2 million to clean everything out of there. We have to go down, it was about 10 feet.
Yeah, you have to basically the plan is to over excavate the entire site, dig down 10 to 12 feet deep, remove all the debris material that's there. And then what you end up having to do is you have to then backfill the entire site with suitable material. It has to be proof-rolled in layers so that by the time you're up to the surface, you have substantial space to start reconstructing your footings on.
Any other questions?
If we don't do it, this site is probably going to remain like it is for the next 10 or 20 years, or until somebody is willing to come in and get those costs underwritten, because it is a big number to incorporate into your project cost.
Ms. Smith.
I have a few questions. Are you looking for alerta?
We probably will at some point down the road, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's a possibility.
I'm sorry, Joanna, what was your question?
If they were going to look for alerta.
See, right now the property is not paying any taxes. It's a KOZ. Once it goes to alerta, it'll pay the base taxes of what the tax level is for the land at that point. And then for those that are not familiar with alerta, it could be over a 10-year period where you could have maybe 100% the first year, 90, 80, 70, so forth, down to zero. So tax revenues will be coming in. That property for the last probably 35 years hasn't paid a dime in taxes. So what we're doing, when you look at this project, we're creating the opportunity for $1.8 million in local taxes, probably another couple $100 in local taxes. You know, it's a far cry from where we are at the present time. And the payback is, I think, quite substantial.
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
So I think I share Councilman Haas's want something like this to work. I mean, we've seen this site like this for so long. We want Wilkes-Barre to be better. I'm concerned about the risk, just like I think everyone is. And I think that people in Wilkes-Barre are also concerned about the risk. And I know that you haven't had investors except for one in Wilkes-Barre, but I do know that people outside of the area in Wilkes-Barre are investing in Wilkes-Barre. Why haven't we found more of those private investors?
Well, first, can I address the first part of the risk? Number one, the county money, like if you approve this, you're not writing us a check for $5 million. Those dollars will be put into a fund, and we will only draw down those funds as a construction on a reimbursable basis, but you'll pay us after the expenses have been paid, the project is moving along. You'll be the last ones putting your dollars into the project. So the project will be well underway, it'll be funded before one single county dollar will be spent. And if you wish, you can assign a 24-month limitation on this, that if we don't have a project started in 24 months, the dollars revert back to the county.
I think if I could build on that to answer a couple of the council members' questions on, you know, what do we get for $5 million, right? You have to look at it from the risk of the county perspective of how do we protect a county asset and is this worthwhile? I think, you know, when the question is, what do you get for it? You get that $5 million buys you a $36 million project on a vacant site that has been left vacant for 10 plus years. So when the question is, what do we get for $5 million? What's it going towards? It's going towards hard construction costs on a building that's worth $36 million that's producing 170 plus full-time equivalent construction jobs during the process, and then having 50 full-time equivalent, you know, permanent jobs in the community, well with the ancillary spending that goes with it. So just to kind of help answer that question of what's the money going into, what is going towards, it's going towards that, the hard costs of the project.
Councilman Thornton.
And
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
you just didn't answer my question about the outside investors.
Oh, yeah, if I can speak to that because we work with investors across the country. So there's no shortage of development.
I know that people are a little bit afraid to invest in Wilkes-Barre right now, but I know that outsiders are investing in Wilkes-Barre. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so we're talking about development risk, which is different than redevelopment risk, right? Every investor has to weigh their risk opportunities. And when you see development deals in cities happen, they're usually happening by local partners, local groups in the area that are investing in that area. To find outside development ground up money is very uncommon unless it's very large scale projects that either end with a B or a billion, or large hundreds of millions of dollars where private equity funds can put a large amounts of money to work at one time. When you see development deals, especially these types of hotels and these types of market, they are local players that are stepping up to do something in the areas that they're familiar with. So to find those investors that have funds and the appetite to do that type of deal, to leave the market that they're comfortable in, it's very uncommon.
But I think Mr. Baruch can correct me if I'm wrong, that's not happening in Wilkes-Barre. I believe the opposite is happening in Wilkes-Barre, that outsiders are investing.
Well, H&N Investments represents an outside group of Mr. Sila, who came.
Well, he's here, he lives here, Mr. Stan lives here.
Yeah, but he wasn't from this area.
I have another question, but that's somebody else
Okay,
can
all
answer.
right, Mr. Thornton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things I want to clarify and maybe solidify in my own head. Your project is not, because personally, I'm not in favor of ever taking Luzerne County taxpayer money and give it to a private project. I would never vote for that. So we established that none of this 5 million, you're not seeking that from Luzerne County taxpayers, correct?
That's correct. It's
Correct.
UDAG funds.
It's all from the UDAG fund that we discussed in the past, correct?
These are dollars that were paid back from federal grants that were made to projects back in the 1970s and 1980s.
Right, okay. I just want to make that clear for everybody so that we're not risking Luzerne County taxpayer money here. And this money in this UDAG fund was never Luzerne County taxpayers that paid into it.
Mr. Thornton, you're right. There's not a dollar of county taxpayer dollars.
Just to clarify that, also to remediate the risk that you guys spoke about, we talked about that at length in past meetings 2 or 3 months ago and even before, that you would be amenable to signing clauses, clawback clauses, where none of this 5 million, if it's approved, would be at risk. In other words, that would be returned to the county if the project does not go forward. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the risk factor, in my opinion, is zero in that regard.
Also, Mr. Thornton, the management of the project would be handled in the same fashion that we're managing the RACP grants with the Commonwealth. And they have a very stringent program. If anybody's ever worked with RACP before, it's not easy, it's tough, it's very accountable. And what we'll do is we'll just, if the county agrees, piggyback what we're doing for the state, we'll do with the county.
Okay.
And there shouldn't be any issues related to.
Thanks. And the last issue I just want to make a point on is I worked in the banking industry for over 30 years. And I'm very familiar with commercial lending, commercial loans. No bank will give commercial loans approval ahead of time to any project. That's in Ohio, California, Colorado. That's not how the industry works. A bank will never say, yes, here's your loan. Now go get the rest of the money from the grantors. That's reverse. A bank will not take that risk ever with, especially in this case, I think you're seeking 21 million financing. And commercial loans are just not done that way. So we're never going to get any kind of commitment from a bank saying, here's the money, we'll give it to you if you get the other money. It always works the other way. That's been my experience for 30 years in the banking industry. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Mr.
So you said the $6 million will be the last money touched, correct? So the last, sorry, 5 million will be the last money touched, right?
Yes.
So what happens when you spend the last dime and need more money, really, if that were to happen?
The project's total financing capital stack will have been in place at that point. So the way the project is working with our contractors is with a guaranteed maximum price from a top tier construction management firm, which is Condell, very well known in the region for large institutional projects. So a guaranteed maximum price not to exceed that dollar amount gives protection to the lender, the developer, and anybody participating in the cost, assuming assuring that it comes in on budget. So having a finalized capital stack with the bank financing in place and the other public financing in place, as well as the private investment that's being put into this project in place, those scenarios won't necessarily come into play where we would run out of money in the middle of construction.
Ms. McDermott?
Just a question about the start and completion date. You said next fall, meaning this coming fall, you think you're going to be able to start it?
That's what we're hoping. If the state comes through with the RACP program, we can probably start it earlier. Yes.
And then
When I say earlier, that'd be the fall.
an estimated completion time?
It's about 18 months.
Question of the parking garage. Mr. Parking garage is that involving ARPA money that we done.
Oh, yes. Actually, we've talked to the contractors on this, and we can start either one first. So whatever one gets off the ground first, we want to break ground and get something moving as quickly as we can. If it's the parking garage, we'll start with that and then work our way into the hotel. But hopefully they'll both be finished at the same time, because the garage should take no more than 6 months tops, because it'll all be pre-construction. The hotel being longer, so we have some lead time, to get the garage and the hotel in sync with each other. Timing this.
As long as it's done within the next 2 years.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Skeen has a question.
So you're only looking for us to give a commitment, right? You're not looking for us to actually take money out of our bank account, put it in your bank account, so it collects interest that you benefit from for years.
We don't want to touch your money until we've spent money on construction. We come back to you asking for a reimbursement of those expenses. Otherwise, all the funds stay with the county.
Okay.
And continue to collect interest.
Any other questions? Ms. Smith?
one easy one. Does this accounting include accounting for union jobs?
Yes,
does it
because
not?
we're taking RACP dollars, it's all at prevailing wage, which makes it very competitive for the union labor to be a part of the construction project, and it'll be bid as an open.
Okay. And then, and Eric, maybe you can speak to this a little more, and knowing that this is coming up, I did some research, and I understand that there is a movement, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that there's a movement of younger generations wanting to stay in hotels that are downtown rather than hotels that are near highways outside of where the things
core.
in the city would be, like the mom and pop stores, basically. Is that true? Can you speak at all to that?
Yes, Council. That's an excellent point. And when I was previously in front of Council, we talked a little bit about that. Interstate or in the late 80s, the interstate properties started to pop up, early 90s, and you saw that hotel business shift from downtown cores to the interstates where people were looking for easier parking and easier access to their vehicles, as well as being outside of what at the time were turning into crime-ridden areas. What we've seen recently with the millennial being in the workforce and the younger generations after them coming into the workforce, what they're looking to do is to stay when they're on business or on leisure travel in that downtown core where there's more city amenities available to them, whether that be through local restaurants, local bars, nightlife, daytime events happening, things like the Kirby Center and the events offered there, etc. Especially when we're looking at things like the Iron Temple coming online in the near future, and having conferences like that happening in the downtown, all of a sudden it becomes a citywide event and people want to stay at a place where they can go to their work meeting, walk back to their hotel, come back downstairs, have a drink, leave the building and be able to safely navigate a downtown area rather than having to worry about driving and getting in their vehicle at the end of whatever their business may be. So it's very true. It's definitely happening. And I think a good indicator of it can be brands like Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt that are developing urban center types of properties to play to this traveler. In addition to, if you simply look at where development deals are happening, they are now starting to move to the downtown cores and away from the interstates where they've historically been happening over the past 25, 30 years.
Like where?
I think Yorktown, which I spoke about, is a really good example. It's a similar market, tertiary market in Pennsylvania, secondary market probably in Pennsylvania, and very much a suburban type of outline where you would typically stay at the edge of a highway. This was an old building, very similar to the Sterling Hotel, that had fallen into disrepair, come offline as a hotel, and was abandoned. Public-private partnership with locals in that community had stepped up and raised over $50 million between public and private funds to go into that project to bring it back to life. And it took them over 10 years to do that. It recently came back online a little over 12 months ago, I believe. So it's happening all over the country, not just in Pennsylvania, but I think that's a really nice example of it happening in Pennsylvania.
And can you speak to why this convention center could be different and more competitive to bring in larger conventions than Mohegan?
Yeah, so definitely speak to it. I think that the size of this.
Do you think, or do you know?
Do I know?
Or do you?
I don't have my crystal ball with me
sources?
today, but yeah, our data.
Think, or do you have sources? You understand? I'm not trying to be difficult with you.
No, I understand. So where this conference center is positioned in relation to something like Mohegan Sun is different. Mohegan Sun is 30,000 plus at 50,000 plus square feet of convention space. We're talking about 5,500 square feet of convention space. So we're not looking for that very large association group that's planning a regional meeting to come to the area. But what we allow for is the attraction of that business in partnership with projects like the Iron Temple, projects like Mr. Bloxton's that's also bringing a hotel to the area and bringing conference center to the area. Having the, what's that?
Which is another thing, is another hotel being built downtown.
So let me speak to that at the same time. The benefit of having hotels clustered together proves that there is induced demand from doing that. When hotels are located next to each other, you'll see that occupancy in that market goes up. That's why at the interstate, you'll see that there are multiple hotels typically on an exit, not just one. In occupancy, the data will show you that induces demand, and occupancy will increase by having more hotels there and not decrease. So having a market like Wilkes-Barre where the hotel occupancy is so high, and we know that to have occupancy that high, especially with the midweek business required to do that, that business demand is coming from a downtown district and a downtown core, and it's being forced out to the interstate. So by having multiple properties in the downtown and offering the ability for more people to stay in downtown, they play off of each other and help to bring that in. On the conference side of it, projects like the Iron Temple coming in and bringing large amount of conference space online allows them to go after larger business pieces that maybe compete with Mohegan out at the arena. Maybe they don't. A lot of corporations have policies that they will not allow corporate travel to be booked at casinos because of the gaming. So they have strict policies against that. So having ancillary properties where that can happen opens a wider range of groups to look at coming to the area. Playing again off the Iron Temple, you need ancillary properties. You need rooms to be able to support a facility like that if you're going to bring a citywide association piece of business to town with regional travelers, or you also need breakout space. So having 5,500 square feet of flexible meeting space allows for a large scale event to be happening at the Iron Temple, and the company that's represented there to book meeting space on ancillary walkable property and say, we're going to have breakout space, we're having this conference, we're having this luncheon happen in this property nearby while that's going on there. So that those travel groups that look for regional markets to host these types of meetings in are looking for markets that not just have the square footage in one building, but also have the ancillary ability to benefit it across the city. And you see that in Scranton with the Hilton and the Radisson who partner together to sell those spaces.
All right, council members, does anybody else on council have any questions? We've had quite a bit of discussion here. We have other presentations this evening. Does anybody else on council have any questions?
Just one concluding question.
Go ahead, Mr. Haas.
Thank you. So, yeah, gentlemen, again, my big ask is, again, minimize the risk to the county, not taxpayers. It's not taxpayer funds, but ultimately it's county money that benefits all our taxpayers. And certainly to see the proof, whatever you can give to us that will provide that extra insurance. You know, I appreciate the being candid with us. And, you know, it's a public-private partnership, so I just hope it can benefit all stakeholders. We look at that parking facilities too, and this just came to me now looking at your beautiful map here. You know, we've got a wonderful parking garage 2 blocks away from the site. It's underutilized, especially on the weekend. It's right over here. The county owns it. I don't know, Andrew Kokomo could perhaps speak to that at a later time, but it's a public-private partnership. We have that component of the facility, something to consider. I'm not trying to throw a chalk on the wheels here because my 2 big components I talked about earlier, but you know, what can we do? I want to help. I'm sure that the goodwill of this council is very evident, but we're just a little gun shy.
We did parking studies for the city, and actually that site can support, according to our consultants, a 400-car parking garage. We can only afford to do 225, so we'll take what we can. But in the design of it, we can expand it if the need ever occurs. So, and right now, there are parking issues over there. The only reason there isn't a parking issue over there is because Mr. Sila allows everybody to park there for free on the lot. Once that lot goes away, you're probably going to have 150 cars looking for a place to go. So maybe some will end up, you know, up at the county garage or North Main Street or somewhere. But right now, all the parking is private. There's no public parking in that quadrant, and it's a problem.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
I know you want to throw us out.
No, we
just that's the last thing. And just use your imagination, please. This site has been sitting here vacant for how long? It's problematic. And the only way we're going to straighten it out is with public support. So just visualize. You took my picture down. Darn. You got the picture. You got the picture of the hotel. And just visualize that when you're driving over the Market Street Bridge and the impression that it presents compared to what we're dealing with now. So thank you for your patience. All the meetings we come to and all the conversations, we really appreciate your patience and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baruch. All right, next up, we'll have the Hotel on the Square presentation. You guys sure you still want to present after all those questions? Are you ready?
We took care of half of this stuff already.
Yeah, they did answer a lot, actually, and set me up really well. While Peter's getting this, I'm Michael Bloxton, everybody. I am a Delaware County native, so not Wilkes. Reason to come up here until I personally invested. And Ms. Smith, your comment about private investors, I am a private investor.
From out of the area.
From out of the area. I have purchased this building, this beautiful building, just over a year ago. And quite frankly, I didn't know what I was getting into. I have a background in telecom, and I have some aerospace companies. If any of you saw the press release that we did, press conference we did at this building on November 13th, 2 months ago. I am interested in doing what is best and bringing this property to its highest and best use. And I will share slightly outside of this presentation that when I got here, I did not know what I was getting into. I did not know Wilkes-Barre, and I have gotten nothing but great reception. I have met with Steve and Greg and Sam and so many other people, and there's a letter from the mayor that you all can review, Romilda as well, and even Congressman Cartwright, up and down the entire food chain, and have seen nothing but support. I see, so this is starting in October of 22. I see nothing but fertile ground here. And when I bought this building, one of the first things I tried to do was actually hire some aerospace engineers to work in my space company. Since we have this big building, talked to my co-founder, said, why don't we set up an office? One of the first issues we ran into is we got 0 applications for that position. 0, not a single submission of a resume at all. So we began to reach out to Wilkes University, King's College, and Luzerne County Community College to find out what we can do to improve the area. One thing we learned about and we started hearing about was we need a hotel. Greg himself at Wilkes University said when he came here to interview, he had to stay up at the highway, by the highway, to be able to interview on campus. And when parents come in to see the city and the beautiful campuses between Wilkes and King's, they're not staying in Wilkes. So it's been a bit of a problem. So aside from going after the same pot of money that Mr. Baruch is going after, I actually support their project. I think it's going to be great for downtown. I think there's a lot that we can do. I think, and I'm proud to stand next to them as people who believe and are willing to invest in and work on and develop what we have downtown. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I know it's getting late, so I'm open to describe all this. So you're getting a feel for the timeline already. I closed on this building September 30th or 31st of 22. I didn't actually meet Mike McHale, who you'll hear from here in a bit, until August, but we've been able to pull together everything you've seen in just about 8 weeks or 9 weeks. And we are intending to break ground, so to speak, in June. One thing I do want to say is apples and oranges. What Steve has just shared with you is a very different product, is a very different project, and it's in a very different situation than what we are in. So hopefully we can expand on that as we go through it. So here's the agenda. Here's some pictures. We'll go into each one of those pictures. Executive summary, I'm not going to read this. It's the overview of the project. This is a full service, meaning we're going to serve all 3 meals. Boutique hotel by Marriott. Marriott is the largest brand in the world. We had Hilton and Marriott both bidding to take on this project and put their flag here. We do have luxury apartments that are staying on the top, but they have nothing to do with the actual hotel. And we are acquiring the F&B building next door. So when we talk about improving the city and taking a vacant building off the square, obviously beneficial for us, beneficial for our city, beneficial for the county as well. Let's get into the good stuff. Here you can look at some of the businesses that are driving it. I have met with Joelle at the Kirby several times and walked through what their needs are, why they're so interested in having a property adjacent to them that can support some of their activities. We've even met with Gus Giannetti. So again, meeting with the Baruchs and meeting with Gus Giannetti, other people that have hotels that from the outside perspective look like we compete. But again, they're very different products. A Best Western to a Marriott to a Hyatt are very different products for very different people. And we have different experiences to provide. The Kirby Center is a really big one. Obviously, the Iron Temple, between the 3 opportunities, even just between Gus and Giannetti's and the Kirby Center, and then our building and the F&B, and even the Innovation Center, you start to have a hospitality corridor, and you have one full side of the square becoming a destination. which I think is going to be something unique that I don't think has been here for decades. If you go into the jobs, this is where the rubber meets the road. You'll notice that some of these numbers actually look similar to what Mr. Baruch brought up, because we have roughly the same amount of rooms at the end of the day. Their temporary jobs are much larger because they have a roundup project, so they're going to be hiring a lot more construction people. But when we get established, we're both looking at roughly 105 rooms. So there is a similar ongoing tax revenue benefit for the city, county, and state. This is a cool picture. I can't believe I found this. This is actually what the building used to look like. And I will say, and I'll say it again, anyone who wants to tour the property, please come on over. Even I was impressed. I had never stood, when we did the press conference, I stood in front of that vault and I looked back this way over the square, and we have this massive window that's 3 stories tall, and it's impressive. I've lived in it for a year and I never stood there. So there's a very big difference in seeing a picture to actually being able to stand there and feel it as you go in. The floor, those floors are actually marble. They've got a pink hue and a white hue. They're gorgeous. There is a very specific historical restoration component to this as well. We want to keep all the cool stuff. This has so much character. You don't get to run into properties like this. And Ms. Smith, going back to your comment about the next gen wanting an experience, this is certainly going to be that experience that they're looking for. And again, it's a different product than anything that's on the market right now. This goes into the building history. We can all check this out. Going back into it was built in the 1930s or finished in the late 1920s. Location, I think we're all familiar with this. That picture in the bottom left is right after they did the lighting. This is from, I think, the 13th floor, looking over the square. It is a prominent location for everybody. Here's the interior. So in the bottom right are those windows that you see when you're standing at the vault. That ceiling, there was a flood in this building prior to me owning it, and they actually restored the ceiling, hand painted that ceiling. And the sculptures in there are awesome. We actually have original lights that kind of light up. You can see the lights on the top. Again, go into the experience, and obviously I'm excited about this project. I am investing my own millions of dollars into this project. We've got a lot of different things in different positions here. This is a render of what the bar can look like. So we're working right now with Marriott to get all their boxes checked. And we've just brought on our interior designer who was approved by them. We've already engaged our architect. We've got local MEP, local construction. We're bringing in world-class hands. We're bringing in world-class people to sculpt with local hands is how I would describe this project. So it's not like nobody here is going to start working. The construction jobs will be here. The structural jobs will be here. And this is where I would love to have a drink, love to have some meetings here. Picture on the left was from New York Times. It's obviously not to scale, but I thought it was a cool looking picture. 105 rooms, full service boutique hotel. We are going for high-end experience in the restaurant. We do have to be open by stipulation for Marriott, 3 meals a day. Now that could be like a coffee muffin kind of thing for breakfast. And then you can get, 10 items or so at the bar at lunch. But we're also working on, I'll talk about the F&B building here in a second. Here's a sample. You saw the lobby a second ago. Here's a sample of what our rooms could look like. This is actually similar to the layouts on the left of what is looking like we can actually do based on meeting all of Marriott's requirements. A guest room plan in the center there. It's hard to see on this screen, but all of you should have this. They printed a portrait on this landscape. All right, sorry about that. You should have all this electronic, and I can get it to you electronically so you can see it. So you'll see the F&B building being included here. And this is the first floor of both buildings. So we're actually looking at enclosing both properties. I own, obviously, the currently Luzerne Bank building and the parking lot in back. If any of you have ever been behind the Kirby, there's a parking lot that's actually ours. And that if you've ever done anything with Luzerne Bank, you've gone up into the drive-through kind of thing. We own all that. So we'll actually fence that off and create a completely different enclosure to enter the building from the rear, which will be, again, a part of the great experience that's I personally want to have and every other city has that we're going to have with this project. And one other thing is there's actually going to be an entrance into the restaurant, which is where the F&B building is. That white box is really hard to see in kind of the front middle by the yellow. That'll actually be a glass enclosed vestibule to get into the restaurant. So we're really going to manage the traffic coming in. So everyone gets the wow experience when you walk into both buildings. Here's a sample of an actual floor plan of those rooms I showed earlier, how they're laying out. Draft, it'll remain draft for another probably 2 months. Again, we're shooting for, I say swinging a hammer, not digging a shovel, because we don't have to dig shovels in this project. So we should be swinging hammers in on July 1st. Key highlights: adds critical hospitality downtown, removes the vacant FMV building, and brings it up to its highest and best use. I think that alone, adding that to the tax roll is going to be pretty cool. Adds direct support for the Kirby Center, Franklin's, and Rodano's. Fun side story: Joel was at that press conference on November 13th. The Saturday before that, they had a double header. They ran out of liquor, and then Rodano's ran out of beer, and Rodano's ran out of change. And I think she said something like 20% of those people live almost out of state. So you had all those people staying somewhere, and they weren't staying here, and they were drinking their faces off. So we should definitely work on getting a hotel very close by. And then we're also connected to the public square. To the intermodal. So we have, I believe there's 699 rooms, 699 parking spaces at the intermodal. We actually have a bridge into our building. So we don't have any parking issues. Not only do we have 30 spots of our own we own, we actually have 699 that we have access to. I've already had discussions with the mayor about getting a long-term lease at a very cost-effective rate to support 105 rooms. And we're working with Marriott as to exactly how many they want to see, so we can lock in our parking. Again, we're fortunate with our location and the connection there. And then it adds significant jobs and revenue. So if you haven't gotten the impression yet, I am not a developer. I am an entrepreneur here. I'm fortunate that I started investing in real estate and things like that. Fortunate about this project, and I'm excited about this project, but I am not the reason that this will get done. I've been blessed to be able to meet the support locally here, Mike being one of the guys you'll hear from, but all the support, again, going from our mayor all the way up to our congressman and our senator, Bob Casey. They are extremely interested in supporting us, our space initiatives, as well as our real estate initiatives. So you can read about me. You heard enough from me. I actually want to introduce Mike McHale to share with you kind of the local mix as to what he sees. And he's been able to work with me intimately, but also has a background that was like, holy crap, when I heard about it, we got to work together to make this thing happen. So Mike.
Good evening. Thanks for listening to us tonight. Mike McHale. Believe it or not, I'm one of the few that grew up here and left and came back. So I grew up in Duryea, still live in Duryea. Actually live with my father because I take care of him after my mom passed away. So I actually left in '93 and I went to Drexel, and I came back for a little bit to work at Procter & Gamble after I got my engineering degree, and then I left, traveled to Philly, ended up with a pretty large assortment of development jobs. I worked on Citizens Bank Ballpark, St. James Tower, first high rise in Philly, really after the '80 kind of commercial collapse. Then I ended up at the Revel Casino and went through the 2008 crisis as the VP of Development and Construction. So here I come from Duryea and I end up at a casino. I took that job and I had never been in a casino before. So my development kind of led me into that. And then I got into some private equity. So through my career, about $4 billion worth of construction development work. So working for a private equity company, doing some clean tech rollouts, I realized we were having problems with some technology companies. So I ended up buying PSA in 2016, and that leads us into the conversations with Mike. So in 2016, I bought a very small company with 4 employees. Today, we're just shy of 90 employees. We're going to do $50+ million right here in Duryea. So I came back to Duryea in 2018, and I bought a small business out of bankruptcy and turned that from just a handful of people now into 60+ on the Duryea campus. So I've invested, like Mike came back, I invested my money. So I now have 20+ acres in Duryea, about 100,000 square foot of manufacturing. I'm on all the university boards, Penn State, Ben Franklin. So I came back and I really dove in. And I dove in because I think there's a change, right? So I left and I spent time in Vegas and Macau and Singapore and Atlantic City. And I come back here and the area is different than it was when I left in '93. There's more opportunity. I see the opportunity of growth, so now I'm investing all of my money and capital into PSA locally. So now we're over 60 people. We're now working for dozens of Fortune 500 companies. We're doing the automation upgrades at the ammunition plants, at Gentex locally. We have a hybrid projectile program for the Department of Defense working on new hybrid projectiles. We have a drone program right in Duryea at our campus, and all of those engineers are actually from Wilkes. So that kind of ties me back into Wilkes. I employ 10 engineers out of Wilkes, and we have continual role of interns and new employees coming in. And the goal of the company is to produce entrepreneurs locally. So that's been my focus. So about 95 days ago, I meet Michael at a TechBridge conference that I'm on the board. So I'm into the education locally because I think we could do better. I meet Michael and he's talking about space, and he has a couple of space contracts. And Michael says, hey, I need some engineers. Well, we happen to have 60 of them. And now we are in a partnership and we're working on a payload to go to the International Space Station next year in Duryea. So that ties me back into the project. So now I need the help. So I see this as an opportunity of taking our area and our region to a different level. So I'm a guy who's probably spent 10,000 hotel nights in my career traveling. There was probably 10 plus years that I was 200 nights a year. So I understand what we're looking for when it comes to the hotel. I know the development aspects. I also know when my clients come in, they're looking for a hotel to stay at locally. They can't stay at the Mohegan Sun because the Fortune 500 don't allow the casinos like Eric talked about. So they're staying, Montage Mountain, but the restaurants aren't good enough. And we need to upscale that, because when I have visitors come in, their plant managers, their director of engineering of Fortune 500 companies. We need to have more. And it's just not for me, it's for everybody in the valley. Anybody who wants to grow their business, we need to have some more assets. So bringing that all together, I have all of my contacts from the development work I've done, the restaurant works I've done. I've invested in restaurants and Iron Chefs. We're partnering with the Vibrant Group that's not on there, and they are.
We engaged them yesterday.
Yeah, so we engaged them yesterday. I've worked on a couple of projects. So they've done redevelopment on the National Mall, Camden Yards, Revel, Tropicana, to start doing some market research, and hopefully we can draw some really, really dynamic talent to the area.
The goal with them is to actually bring in an Iron Chef or something like it, a name that will take people within 45 minutes, an hour and a half, a chance to come in and eat at that restaurant. So the JKRP, they're a Philadelphia-based firm. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, so they're a Philadelphia-based firm. They've done a lot of historic high-rise transitions from commercial to other upscales. I've also done 2 projects with them that were very successful. So I'm very familiar with them. Obviously, we partner with Sardoni locally. So that's obviously a local known generational firm.
Smith Miller too, they were.
And Smith Miller's our mechanical firm. They're located in Pittston. Actually, Smith Miller's working for me on another project locally. So we're trying to tie in all the locals because I want to use as much local, but we're still looking for that little bit of outside support to help us kind of take us to the next level.
So thank you, Mike. We jump into the numbers. Here's where we're landing right now on construction costs and the F&B building acquisition, design fees, etc. This project is underway, so we're not seeking 23 million or anything like that. To Mr. Thornton, to your comment earlier, and to Mr. Hass's questions, we are in conversation with local banks. Local banks are actually the ones that are extremely interested or trying to pull in other banks, because most of our local banks are pretty small. I have a meeting with a much larger bank who's extremely interested with their CEO on Thursday, so we'll be able to provide the updates as they come. But again, we already own this building. We already have assets. I've already invested millions of dollars. We already have engaged our architects and our designers and the restaurateurs, et cetera, to be able to make this project work. So well underway with this. I don't know if there's anything shocking on that slide. This is just historical market performance projections. And this is detail that is publicly available based on anonymized data from hotels. So this is from my perspective as a private investor. This is how I look at, or one of the ways I look at, is this project financially feasible for me to invest my money in, my time in? And I believe it is. I'll actually call on Eric in a little bit to share the experience we had with Marriott when we were all shocked at what our numbers were and how much they really want to be in that particular building downtown. We're looking at $2 million county funds to get, this F&B building was not a part of the original plan. That came up in conversation with the mayor. And obviously we've been thinking about it just because it's adjacent, but it was under contract. And I had met with, just like you hear me talking to everybody in our county or our city, I did meet with the previous person that was under contract to figure out what they were doing and interested. And when I heard it fell out of contract, and this is again, you guys get punched in the gut constantly on this stuff. It's just, I don't want to see it sit. It's a property that's adjacent to mine, and obviously you heard our plans now. That sounds great. Obviously we didn't know this several weeks ago, but we've been talking to the mayor. We were supposed to get the actual official resolution done tonight, but they canceled their meeting. So commendations to you to actually get here tonight with the bad weather. We'll have the working session and the resolution on Thursday. And then there's a letter, Mr. Lombardo, that Mayor Brown, the glowing letter of recommendation. I don't know if you have it.
I think it's in the packet and all council members have had it. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. So you guys have seen the type of support that we're getting directly from the mayor to make sure that we can get this. And if you look in the top left there of that picture, the very, very front right corner of the building, of the F&B building, is actually where you will be coming into the space of the restaurant. So you'll come in from our lobby, and then you will go into that vestibule I pointed out, and you see that white box again there. That's actually where you're going to come into that building. By itself is awesome to walk into too. So to be able to take this up to its highest and best use is going to be fantastic. None of this was in our plan. None of this was what we were thinking about, which is why we're here asking for the money. And again, the money is the HUD money. I understand, based on all the conversations and research I've done, I am happy to, I guess, indemnify the county that if that money is spent on us and you guys HUD tries to claw that back from you, we will pay back on the same terms. So you guys won't have to, if you do spend it with us, you're not going to have to be out and have to worry about if you get clawed back. I'll be right there with you. So we're willing to indemnify you and work with you if for whatever reason HUD gets off their ass and tries to come after them. Which again, from my perspective, I'm willing to bet and invest that it's not. And that's it. And I just have this last slide with me and the mayor. That's our vault, which is going to be a private dining. It's going to be super cool. Big vault, cool stuff. That's it. Questions?
Council members, any questions? All right, Mr. Liscavige.
So I gotta tell you, sitting here, I'm that guy that's really excited over all this, right?
Do it.
12 hotels. We're lacking so much in this area. I didn't travel to your extent, but I covered 6 states with my job. I watched Lancaster drop a hotel in the center of the city of Ballfield, and it explodes. A microbrewery, a piano bar. It's time we catch up to the times, right? We gotta have things to attract people. I'm very enthused that you're willing to put this kind of money into this city, which is the gateway of this courthouse. We have a beautiful courthouse. I love the looks of that bridge out the window. I can imagine, Riverfest and some other festivities. Every other county has other types of festivals going on, whether it be a garlic festival. Easton had it was packed. I was there, a hot pepper festival. Could you imagine, and it drew in a lot of people. We need to quit complaining and stop saying, you can't do that. What do you want to do that for? And move ahead, because you know what? We're going to be left behind. That's all I'm going to say.
Mr. Haas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So Senator Scott Martin, who sits on the House Appropriations, or Senate Appropriations Committee, he toured our building as well. And he shared that exact story. He's like, this reminds me of what we did in our downtown. He's like, your downtown feels the same way. And it took that project, their convention center and the hotel, to turn it all around. So I think we're all thinking and feeling the same way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chair.
Mr. Haas.
Mr. Bilox, thanks for coming to Wilkes-Barre. Welcome. And Mr. McKell, thanks for coming down Route 11 to see us tonight. So, I come from a little different mindset than my colleague here, Mr. Sketch. I was on this council and we had to deal with that Hotel Sterling debacle. It was awful. And I'm very concerned with safeguarding public funds. You can call it whatever is tax money or bag money, it's still public funds. And your presentation is missing just two things. One you mentioned, number one, I've been at the building before, it's beautiful, but you don't have a plan for the penthouse. That's a beautiful, I've seen it through the public square. It looks like a bookcase. What's the plan for the rest of the building?
So we have 17 luxury apartments on 12, 13, 14. Remember, when I spoke to you, I've now made my office. So my brother, where's my brother? Matt, stand up for a second. If anyone's actually going to tour the building, probably going to tour my brother, Matt. I forced my brother, Matt, to move into the building when I bought it. I said, somebody needs to manage this, so you need to move in. On November 1st, not the largest penthouse we have on 14, but one of the larger things we have on 13. Beautiful, overlooks the square. That's actually where I stay. So every time I come into town, I stay there with my brother, and we actually work. I will work over that. It is beautiful. It is stunning. Super selfishly, I'm going to keep that unit for myself. And the 17 units will stay apartments. There is a 15th floor that is about the size of one of those luxury apartments. And we don't have a defined plan for that yet, but it is not going to stay somewhat useless as it is. So I can't.
The problem is we can't, there's no way of, an easy way of getting elevator access to it. So we can't make it necessarily pure public space. That wasn't made, the building wasn't made to have that as.
That was always meant to be utilities, top of elevators. There's about 1,000 square feet that is on the 15th floor that looks unbelievably amazing on the views. So there will be something that happens there. I don't know how public we can make it. Great question. Second.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second question is, again, that assurance. So you said you're an entrepreneur, you've done with other areas of investment, but not hotels. You've done a little bit, I think, hotel work in Macau, and I love Macau. It's a neat place. I don't want this place to be Macau, though. That's a wild place. But nonetheless, I get the whole conception. What are some products that you all come collectively or individually can show us that are demonstrable results?
As far as what I've developed,
Like a hotel conceptualization like we see here.
Oh, so I'm a person who stays at usually Curios or Tapestry or boutique hotels like this. I like the historic feel. I like a little randomness to the rooms. I like a nice bar, and most people travel. And if you've talked to Eric about the Marriott customers, I think on average Marriott member spends like $48 a night on F&B at the hotel or surrounding areas.
F&B being food and beverage.
Food and beverage. So that, that's a big draw. I think this type of product over everything else in the city, or even on the exit ramps, is much higher. My employees that travel, because I do have 3 offices and my employees travel a lot to the offices, they won't stay at a bunch of the hotels on the off ramps just because they're usually not clean enough, or there's no restaurants for them to eat at. There's chain restaurants and they don't want to do that. So that's fitting this type. So I probably have 2 or 3 nights. I probably have 2 rooms a night in the hotel that would probably be booked by PSA, just because we have so many clients and so many employees that roll through continually. So, and being attached to the garage is a big one too, because that's the security of pulling up in the garage, walking across the ramp, in the lobby, and you're safe. A lot of people don't want to park on flat lots and walk across flat lots. So.
But to clarify, you've stayed at these boutique hotels, but you haven't developed.
Well, let me also clarify too, the data point to something Ms. Smith asked earlier. The brand, the Tribute brand under Marriott is new, as well as under Hilton. They have their competing one, which is Tapestry. They just developed both of those. I don't think either one has more than 150 in each, right? So they're new because they're adjusting to the market. Like this style of hotel wasn't actually a thing 10 years ago. So they just came up with this. I think we're number 100 for Marriott or something like that. So there isn't actually this type of hotel products there. This is Marriott knowing and seeing that it's there and supporting this type of development.
But as a business traveler, if you stay at one of these boutique hotels, you're getting a higher end restaurant and a higher end feel. And they're usually, Eric knows the comps better, but they're 25, 30 bucks a night more, which isn't a lot. So from a budgeting standpoint for travelers, that 150, 160, $170 range is not a problem for any of our corporate travelers.
Love the concept, love the designs, love all that. It's not my concern. How you get my vote, minimize our risk, help us take care of the HUD obligations. That's what it comes down to.
Knock them down.
That's how we can make it so easy for us to minimize our.
I think it should be noted, we develop it, we put it together, we make the building look like that. Then Eric and Marriott step in with their brand push in the app and how they drive those lights. So that's what brings in that level of competency that the hotel will be profitable, because Hilton, Marriott's not going to put their name on that property and not drive it to the top of their search list.
You probably remember a few years ago, the city was working on a project there in South Main Street, the Frank W. Clark building, the Frank Clark building there, and we got nothing.
Here's the
And
coolest part of
this is-
this.
I don't want to see that.
It's
really gunshot.
I live
That's all
here.
I'll say about
I live here and have customers here
Yeah.
and have family here. And I'm your fourth generation local. So like, I can't have, I don't want to have a black eye on me. So that, I'm putting myself out there because this is outside of production, outside of PSA. So this is important to me personally.
Thank you.
And I will say,
Ms. Smith, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
this is a building that exists. This is not a ground up. You know, if you look at the numbers, we're half the price with the same amount of products, a better product. I'm sorry. Different products, sorry. If I had to choose, I'd probably stay at my hotel, but it's a different product and a different experience.
You are staying there.
That exists, exactly. And exists, and you can tour it. So it's not the same energetic financial time. Again, we should be open June of 25. That's our goal. So we're gonna start construction in July, and we're gonna run through a 9 to 12 month construction renovation. So it's a much different project.
Blocks, and Mr. Baruch is still here.
And again, I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. The meeting space is also critical. I again, my inexperience in hotels in this type of development is me reaching out to people that have, someone who actually gets their haircut at the same barber, which is random, as I do, owns 4,500 rooms themselves in their family. And when he reviewed the numbers, he says, Mike, you've got to have business rooms. So we were contemplating, losing some hotel rooms for business meeting rooms. So when you look at the question about their conference room or Mohegan Sun, even with our conversations with Ken O'Krepke and Christian about the Iron Temple, or Joel with Kirby, we're filling in the stack. We have big gaps in conferences and being able to support local businesses to have these meetings or even have an opportunity to come in. In fact, talking to Gus lost a lot of business because of when the Sheraton went away. When the Sheraton went away, he couldn't book different types of conferences because he only had 100 rooms maximum, but he needed them in order to support his conferences. And that whole business went away when that hotel went away. So again, Gus is excited. I'm excited about what Steve is doing. And I think we all need it.
Ms. Smith?
You said that you're asking for 2 million
Yes.
and yours is a cheaper, you're saying that yours is not from ground up, it's not from scratch, so it's cheaper to get done.
Correct.
But, and this is a little abrasive and I don't mean for it to be abrasive.
I'm from Delaware County, which is very similar to mine. So you can say whatever you want.
I'm just asking a difficult question and it's difficult to ask, so I understand. But if you seem very successful, I'm not sure why you need our help.
This was not planned. This F&B, I think, one, shows a big vote of confidence to any partner, specifically on the restaurant side of things. So the high-end restaurant we want would be in the F&B building. And that was not part of our plan at all. We were planning on doing something much smaller inside of this cool high-end bar, which would have been enough. And that's what I invested in. This is something completely different. And I think the people that we want to attract in as restaurant operators, so we'll own it, they will come in and operate, just like Eric and his team will operate the hotel. We need to show them, all of us, the city, the state, the county, everyone needs to show these restaurateurs who are in New York, who are in Philly, who that we want to support them. We want them here. And I think that is honestly, as big of a piece as the money is, to show that this is a project that everyone supports.
The fact that we got these guys from Byron to come in, these guys work on $3-4 billion development projects that are as large as our city. And they're willing to come in and work with us to help bring those people in. Part of that is our conversations that we've had with county, with city, with the governor's action team about their support for that project. When you get to that level, that's what we're going to need to be able to attract the really high class people, restaurateurs that are going to come in and operate that. And Mike can probably speak to it better than I.
Yeah, Councilman, I'd kind of back up. When Mike actually told me, hey, let's buy the F&B building, I'm like, for what? We're going to turn that into a house? Because from a development standpoint, and a location standpoint, if it's an individual property standing alone, it's an undevelopable piece of property. It's not big enough for anything. It has no parking. It has no off-street valet. There's no resources to that little building. So when Mike said, let's put a restaurant in there, and I started thinking about, okay, how do we do this? It's not inherently a great property to have. I've done another building in Philly that was associated with a bank, and we kind of did the same restoration to it. And a restaurant went in there, and it was successful for about 10 years, but it's never been able to be redeveloped. You need to help to redevelop those spaces to bring that restaurateur in to say, hey, the area is here to help you. The city, the county's here to help. Everybody wants to see this be successful. Because trying to bring an outside operator into Wilkes-Barre and saying, hey, we're going to stand up a high-end, potentially Iron Chef type restaurant, it's a pretty big sell. So we need a lot of help for that. So, when I looked at it as a standalone, I'm like, let's just do the hotel. That building is not valuable enough for us. I actually thought that building's a drag on the overall property.
He still brings it sometimes.
Yeah, because it's very difficult, and Eric can speak towards that in a hotel. That's a hard spot. To me, I would think that building's we don't want a vacant building next door, and that building's gonna be vacant for a very long time.
Another 20 years. The city bought it in 2004 out of bankruptcy, and it's been vacant ever since. It was vacant before that. That's why they got it at tax lien sale 2000.
Yeah.
We're going on 20 years.
I'm not saying the building's not beautiful. The building is absolutely gorgeous. It's in very good shape because the city has put money into it. But from a redevelopment standpoint, that's a tough spot with no access. I wouldn't even know what to do with it without the hotel. And that's probably why it's been sitting there for so long.
And do you have any feasibility studies or rough numbers that it would bring in?
We're going to work on that with Vibrant. We have the numbers that Eric has been able to put together as a normal F&B, but we're going to try to take those levels and raise that, make that restaurant and that bar a destination to bring people in, to drive people to the Kirby Center, to drive people to the hotel. That's the goal.
To take people to space too?
Yeah, so
It's a little late, sorry.
Was that? Yeah.
Congressman Carter made a similar comment about also the closest to if you look at the numbers too, the acquisition alone is $450,000. To fit that building out structurally, it's great. The city put $1.5 million into the roof and the windows. HVAC, there's nothing. There's no mechanicals there.
There's no electric. There's no lights. That building is basically just a shell. And thank God it's in pretty good shape for how vacant it's been for so long. But it needs a lot of work, and it's not easy to work in, and it's expensive.
And it's more than even this $2 million. This $2 million it's not a lay down for us to be able to turn this into a restaurant, especially when you get someone like a potential Iron Chef come in. Their finishes alone are $2 million, let alone doing the kitchen, doing all that.
Yeah, we'll have to raise more equity on our side in order to do that.
All the private investments have guys sought public investments. You guys sought out state funding, city funding.
Yeah, good question. So LSA, when after LSA, we should hear about that soon. We've talked several times to Senator Muddy Flynn about that. We are also going after RACP for sure. So I'm in touch with Drew Popish and the governor's action team about that. And then historical tax credits, we will go after historical. So we want to preserve. When you guys tour, you will see some really cool like rainbow spots you just do not expect to see. There's an elevator that goes in the basement to the 4th floor mezzanine. And it's like one of those old crank elevators kind of thing. Super cool stuff. So we have the historical tax credits.
Yeah, so we will be turning both buildings into historic. So they will be preserved. So we will be, keeping the intent of what the historic, registry tells us to do.
Any other questions, council members? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. McDermott, I apologize.
Pretty much you answered everything in the time that everybody else asked, but no matter what, the hotel is going to be built. You're gonna do that. You're definitely gonna be buying the building. So you're just looking for the extra money and stuff, but none of what our decision is would delay your hotel.
If you haven't been able to get any pressure from me, I'm just trying to make sure it happens, to be blunt, and move as quick as I can as an entrepreneur. Again, I met Mike because he was on stage talking about shooting drones out of a mortar, out of the back of a Humvee. And I was like, that's amazing. You can talk to this guy. It turns out he has a real estate background. From that moment forward, it's like, who do we need to talk to? How do we do this? And that's been this, you're hearing kind of these developments and how we're talking about the FNB building, how we're talking about this. And you're just go. We've already engaged everybody. I think we need to engage, and there'll be minor contractors going forward, but we're moving forward. This is happening. We want to keep up pace. We want to bring this product to market as quick as possible, which would be ideally June of 2025. So to add this project in, to bring in the type of restaurant board that we want, we need the county to obviously show up financially, but I really think it's about all of us saying, as a community saying, we want this here. We want you here, we want this here.
Any other questions, council members? All right, go ahead, Mr. Perry.
Question, roundabout funds from the ARP?
You and I can work on that. I'm happy to ask, I'm sure.
Obviously, there's two projects going on. Each a project, anyone from City of Wilkes-Barre.
So I know, I went with them through LSA, so I know that we're on that, but you can school me up and I'll work with you in there on that.
I coach him too.
I'm gonna throw one thing out. We are located, my business is located in Luzerne County. If anybody wants to come see industrial robots, drones and hypersonics and other things we work on here in the county as a small business, anybody's always welcome. You can reach out.
I love to see it. Yeah,
me too.
I was a kid in candy store on that.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have discussion regarding the resolution approving an agreement with Penn Avenue Realty Company for leasing of employee parking spaces for fiscal year 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, so I'm here to ask for some parking spaces. How many extra parking spaces did you say you had? Currently, we are under contract. Well, our contract had expired with Penn Avenue Realty Company, which is Genetti's. They're the parking lot across the street from Penn Place. So under our previous contract, we were paying approximately $30 per parking space per month. Up to 200 spaces is what we have reserved currently for our staff. We had sent an RFP out last year in preparation for the budget. They were the only ones that responded to the RFP, coming back at $45 per parking space. So this is a significant increase from our previous contract. So we are looking to renew that contract for a possible 2 years. We did budget $95,000 for this year for parking. And we are working on an assessment to see, we may not need all 200 parking spaces. So we're doing an assessment of that. We're going to be moving some cars out of Penn Place, the probation cars, to free up some spaces over there to bring some of the employees over from the Genetti's parking lot into Penn Place. So we will have a clearer number once we get a better assessment and move some of the vehicles around. But we are looking to move forward with a 2-year resolution to enter into contract for the parking with a possible 1-year extension.
Any questions, council?
Pretty much just comments from on RFP. It's not really negotiable. You can't really negotiate that 50% increase down, right?
No, the other parking, but from what the information that we gathered just in the area, obviously parking is scarce. It's approximately $70 to $75 per parking space throughout the city. So this is still a pretty deeply discounted rate considering, it's not what we were paying before, but.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
But we've already made inroads, Jen and Mary, and Mary today, to make inroads that we won't need that amount of parking spots.
Excellent. Thanks, Ms. McCord.
I'm just gonna hang out.
Oh, okay, all right, well, hey, all right, next we have Luzerne County Kingston subdivision and land development preliminary sketch plan review.
Okay, so last night I attended Butler Township's planning commission meeting, where we had asked them to review our sketch plan for the major subdivision on the Kingston property, which is in Butler Township. It's a 538 acre lot in the southern part of the county. Kingston property, the Keystone Job Corps property is on there, as well as Furwood Music Camp. So with the proposed sketch plan, it was a subdivision to create 48 lots on this parcel. And I will just highlight, I provided you with the engineer's report based upon our submission. And I'll just go through a few of the highlighted items. I got this information this afternoon, so I did go through it as quickly as possible.
I was going to say, for the new members that don't know, we had asked for money to be put into the budget to have this property in Butler Township surveyed and subdivided. There were 3 subdivision maps given. For some reason, one went to Butler Township, which Jen attended that meeting last night, which has 48 parcels on there, but we don't know if that's the one that we want. Out of the 3, I think it should have been discussed on what should have gone, because no matter what, it's going to cost some money to be able to sell off this property. However, we can make money off of it. You know, the county can make money and put it back on the tax rolls and stuff like that. We do have to keep the Job Corps. We have to do that. You know, we can't get rid of that. So that absolutely has to be subdivided out of this property.
So, and with that being said, with the other plans, the other sketch plans that were drawn up, this kind of, with everything that was changing, this kind of came across my desk as I was stepping into the acting role in operations. So this is what was presented. There are 2 other sketch plans. I have to familiarize myself with those. And then, of course, we can discuss that. But based upon the review that we got from the engineer, that's something that council is going to have to decide. Do you want our engineers to take a look at this, do a cost evaluation, what it's going to cost to actually develop this property? What will we have to do to then sell off these parcels as they're subdivided? Things to consider with this size of a major subdivision. There is public sewer in that area of Butler Township. There is not public water infrastructure there, so it would be individual wells or some kind of central water system in that area. There would be driveway access tie-ins, and a big concern, and coming from Butler Township in my previous life, was there, because of the size of the development, they're within their saldo requirements, there has to be a holding tank large enough to accommodate X amount of homes in the event there's a fire. So it's an underground holding tank. You're probably familiar with this, Chairman. And I don't have the saldo in front of me to reference, but it's quite a significant size of a tank. And then for every additional 5 homes, I think it's an additional 100 gallons for this tank. And they're sometimes troublesome to access. So with that, we'll have to do a sewage facilities planning module and get into all of that infrastructure. So at this point, I don't know if you want us to go forward and ask the engineer to do a cost analysis on this size of subdivision, or if we want to revisit the other 2 sketches and maybe scale it back and do a minor subdivision instead of a major subdivision, because the requirements would be less.
Yeah, my thought definitely is to look at the other 2, you know, as well. Just this is quite a project to undertake. You know, the county would take on the council to say, okay, we have to dish out X amount of money. Yes, we'll make a lot off of the sale of the lots, but there's a lot of work that has to go into it. But just to be clear too, there are 3 farmland parcels that would remain farmland, because I know that's a big concern. We're not going to be losing, you know, we'll lose that conservation land. So that is still in all 3 of the plans.
What we will do is we'll formulate a package for council that for the new members that can get the history of how we got to this point. And then that way council can make an informed decision. We wanted just to bring it to council's attention because it was something that was discussed at the Butler Township So this is gonna be on your radar. We will, if you wanna go see the land, we'll bring you down for a field trip. But we will get you the information so that you know the history of how we got to this point and how we should go forward.
Yeah, the history is quite interesting, but we don't do own the land. And at the time, David Pedri, when I was elected in 2020, he said, Leanne, we have all this land, try to sell it. So that's how this all came to happen. And again, we weren't really making any money off of the lease of the farmlands. That's what we were doing. But I'm thrilled at least to have it to this point, you know, that we can at least make some informed decisions, so we don't have all the information.
Any other questions?
Is it that
Go ahead.
field? I'm sorry, is it that field
Go
just
ahead,
south
Mr.
of
Haas.
Pittston of the development there, Leanne? Is that where that is? Is that
Well,
the one
that's like
question?
that's a really small,
It's like the big
if we
field?
don't, you don't have the,
No, if you let me see it. I
Yeah,
can-
yeah,
I can
yeah.
tell you
Absolutely.
before.
I have
I love Google
a
Earth.
copy of it here, but I thought maybe it was gonna be in the packet.
So this is the Keystone Job Corps. So that's basically the border of the property on Foothills Drive. That's East Foothills, and then it goes back this way. Furwood Music Camp is in here. And then it would be developing along this line and this line, but keeping the farm fields down here. So it's a pretty vast property. So I do have the sketches in email. I could send them to you certainly.
And I have so many little sections.
All right, Ms. Stevenson, go ahead.
To my knowledge, yes, I do not have those. This was the sketch plan that was sent to me with this submission, but I will get them. I'm sure our engineer has them, so I can get them and share them with all of you. Absolutely.
Council members, please wait to be called on by the chair. I apologize. Mr. Sabatino.
Sorry. What's gonna happen with the Berwick music?
That would be subdivided out to my understanding, and that would remain the music camp.
Any other questions? All right. All right.
No,
Thank you
public
very
comment,
much.
public comment.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, if we don't do public comment, that'll be a problem. All right, well, now public comment. Anybody in the room? Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, I know it's late, but I don't really care. I don't really care, it's late. I just want to be very clear of my intentions for the allegations. I want to be crystal clear with council and anybody who is watching. My intention was not to make this a race issue, a political issue, or any other issue. My job as the controller is to address allegations. That's my job. There was an allegation made by a previous council member, and that's why that whole thing materialized. Had nothing, I don't even know Mrs. Stevenson at all, Ms. Stevenson. I don't know you. I've never met you. This is nothing personal at all. This is what people elected me to do. Investigate allegations of fraud, misappropriations, and other items that's in our charter. That is my job as the controller. I sent an email to Ms. Stevenson on the 26th asking for the information. Had I got that information, I wouldn't even have addressed it here because I have no skin in the game here. This is a council issue. It's not a controller issue other than to bring this information to council. So I want to be really clear as to what my point was when I came here. I don't want anybody in the audience or anybody in this council to think that I'm have any race issues or any problems with Ms. Stevenson at all. But the problem I do have is if in fact the allegations are true and somebody makes a lawsuit against the county, and I'm not saying they are or they're not, you could have a potential issue where Ms. Stevenson votes on something and they can challenge that issue because she is not a qualified member of this council. That's my concern for this county. It's not a concern for me personally. I could care less. This county council has an obligation. If there was an allegation made against Mr. Haas or anybody else, I'd be doing the same thing. And I've never had to address that issue, but I'm addressing it because the allegation was made by a prior council member. And my job as a controller is to address those issues. And I will address them. And I don't care what color you are. And I don't care what political affiliation you are. It has nothing to do with that with me. All I want to do is get the information that's necessary for this council to know. And council should be asking for that. It doesn't come to me. You can get it from council. Give it to council. It doesn't bother me. That's my issue. So I want to be real crystal clear on the motivation here. What Mr. Urban's motivations are totally Mr. Urban's motivations. I don't know what they are, and I could care less. My motivations are what my job is as a county council member or a county controller, and I was sworn to take an oath to support and defend the county charter. And by God, that's what I'm going to do. Even though I think it's a piece of crap in many areas, I will defend it to the death because that's what the people want. And we should all be doing that. And I'm not saying the allegations are true or they're not. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is we have an obligation to be sure that we are following the charter. Nothing more than that. So that was my, I know my 3 minutes are up, but I had a bunch of other stuff I wanted to talk about business on council. And I do appreciate the opportunity to address that. But I think it's very important that this council and people who are watching this video know exactly what my motivations are.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith.
You're welcome.
Anybody else in the audience? 2 people with their hands up on the Zoom. Jay, please state your full name and your municipality.
Yeah, my name is Jay Miller, and I'm in Wyoming, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. I just want to say that Walter Griffith is not being honest. He agrees with these allegations. It's all over the internet. We all know his biases. So saying it is your job to investigate every silly accusation is complete BS. But that said, I'm glad to hear that council is publicly distancing itself from the racism and unfounded accusations that Steve Urban and Walter Griffith had last week. 2 candidates who, as we all know, lost the election. If county council is going to regain any respect after the chaos of the last 2 years, it needs to turn the page on the likes of Steve Urban. We all know the number of people who love to deny election results that they don't like and look for conspiracies after the fact. That has reached cult proportions, no pun intended, much to the detriment of our democracy. It's not a good look for Luzerne County, and I'm glad to see the distancing. Although Verdo's decision to not move forward with the candidates for the elections board still shows that interference exists. Mostly, I'd like to congratulate the new board members for their legitimate victories. And I'd also like to congratulate the voters of Luzerne County for showing up and denying their votes to Steve Urban and Walter Griffith. And finally, a shout out to the Kingston Police Department, who I'm sure will follow through on its investigation of true criminal activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is a phone number. Please state your name and your municipality.
This is Mark Rabo of Hazleton speaking. Finally, I'm getting on here because the Zoom on my Apple devices wasn't working. I tried raising my hand, nothing was working. IT didn't unmute me. So I hope the county manager and the council takes that issue up with IT after the meeting. First of all,
thank you, Mr.
with respect to what was presented as far as the developers go, I think the first one was clear that there's no deal. The private developer has no financing from any private lender that's verifiable because of the fact that it's such a high risk due to, obviously, they even said it, the environmental issues at the site, as well as not having the personal finance secured, assets to back it up. That's secured for the funding. But the second presentation is very intriguing, and there were 2 things that actually spoke out. One was the indemnification, and the second one was that they are spending most of their private money. They're asking for very little in terms of just to get over the finish line. So the second one would be something worth considering, but the first one is a hard no. I plead with the council that the first one, Mr. This project on the Sterling site did not even be considered, because he just admitted right then and there, and Vice Chairman Thornton even said, commercial, and he said it correctly, commercial lenders will not give a loan of this magnitude if they feel that it's such a high risk. They will want some security, just like we saw with the LSA loan. So, I mean, obviously, this is something that is not worth considering the first one, but the second one is. And I appreciate the board, the council putting in Mr. Phillips on the redevelopment authority based on his institutional knowledge. And we can move forward together on improving the quality of life and improving the redevelopment of old structures in our county. The rest I'll send to you in an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rabo. Any other members of the public?
Second.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yeah.